What's up, Banter fam? Welcome back to the show. Bitcoin has been pumping over the last week, rising over 30%. And now the question on a lot of investors' lips is, will some of those gains start filtering into some of these altcoins? And if so, what altcoins can we look at to get the best gains if Bitcoin and the crypto market continues to perform strongly? I think we're at a very critical point right now when it comes to not only Bitcoin, but also altcoins, because this has been a Bitcoin-led pump. Bitcoin has been dominating. That has been the narrative driving this pump. I think it'll continue to be the narrative driving this pump. But at some point, we can anticipate things to switch, and the market dynamics are going to shift very rapidly, and many of the altcoins could start to then come into the picture. And I want to be prepared to make sure I am in the best altcoins and have the best setups to potentially make money off a potential altcoin rotation. So in today's show, we're going to be talking about that rotation. I'll talk about where I think we sit in this phase. Spoiler alert, I think we're currently somewhere here in this phase overlap phase, which means next comes an Ethereum pump, then large caps, and then maybe an alt season. I say maybe because there is some data I want to show you that will potentially validate or invalidate this thesis depending on how you interpret it. I want to say welcome to everyone joining the show. If you don't usually join these Sunday shows, they're more of an interactive type research stream. So we're going to degen into a lot of altcoins. We're going to look at different trade setups. I'm going to chart coins live. I'm going to take your suggestions. And yeah, the guys that join me every Sunday know how this goes. Basically a fun interactive stream, usually for a couple, 2-3 hours. And yeah, we just have a lot of fun on these streams and cover a lot of ground, but it is a good time to be a degen at the moment with the markets ripping. We have had a slight pullback today. Of course, we're going to talk about that as well because it can be presenting some opportunities. But over the last week, we've absolutely smashed it. It's been an amazing week, and there are some things that could happen this week, like the FOMC meeting, which could see crypto prices continue to push even higher, especially if we get no rate hike on Tuesday. So that could be potentially a big event. And we also have Arbitrum, which is airdropping their tokens on Thursday. That is going to provide a lot of stimulus into certain DeFi ecosystems. That's also a topic I want to talk about later in the show, how to play the Arbitrum trade. That is going to be a huge money-making opportunity at the end of next week, starting on Thursday, probably going all the way into the weekend. I definitely have a plan for buying Arbitrum, by the way, and I'll obviously talk about that a little bit later. I plan to make money on that trade, similarly to how I executed the Aptos trade, similarly to how you could have executed the 𝗟𝗄𝗅 trade when it launches. I think things are going to play out like that on Arbitrum as well. So I want to say hi to everyone before we get into the Bitcoin chart. That's obviously where we need to start. Gianluca, what's up? Colgate, I see Mauricio is in the chat as well. We have Family Guy, we got Steve, we got a lot of the regulars like Luke, you're here every week. We got Tony, we got Deanne. We have a lot of people already putting in their alts. I see message right now for Magic. I actually do want to talk about Magic because I'll show you my chart right now. I think there could be a good opportunity to buy Magic on the pullback if we do get it between 139 and 150. So this is my chart for Magic. Obviously, it has been quite strong, although now starting to form what could potentially be a lower high. That would indicate to me we get a pullback into this range. Difficult token to chart given its lack of historic data, but based on what I'm seeing, I think we could get a pullback there, and I would look at some Magic. But Magic is one that likely is one of the beneficiaries alongside many other Arbitrum tokens of the Arbitrum airdrop later in the week. It's going to put the spotlight on the Arbitrum ecosystem. So I will talk about Magic in the context as well of a bigger gaming conversation, because over the last few weeks, gaming has been one of the top performing narratives. Like we could see here over the last week, some huge gains in the gaming sector. 𝗵𝗆𝗽𝗍 up 78%, Sandbox up 28%, Magic up 70%. Kind of got that double-pronged narrative, that gaming as well as having the Arbitrum narrative behind it as well. You got GALA up 50%. That's quite indicative of the gaming market as a whole, being one of the biggest and most popular gaming tokens. So yeah, gaming's definitely another discussion I want to have today. Lots and lots to talk about. It's going to be a long stream, so buckle up. I'm sorry if you want the info straight away. It's not really how these Sunday streams work. Tends to be more of a relaxed Q&A style. And then obviously we'll hit all of those major talking points along the show. So strap in, get yourself a snack, get yourself a drink, hang out with me, get your charts open if you want to get your charts open, and we can do some charting together and maybe even open some trades. The trades from last show that I did absolutely exploded. So if you were in those trades from my show last Thursday, you would have probably done very, very well. We had a nice Bitcoin trade here on the breakout of the 1 hourly trend at 24. Obviously now Bitcoin's 27. I did close out half of this position at 25. Then I set my stop below. We obviously got the breakout on consolidation. I re-entered that other half and obviously rode that up until about 26.5. So I didn't hold it the whole way. I would have liked to have closed out at 28K. But once again, when you enter a trade at 24.5 and then you get to 26.5, it just makes sense after those kind of profits to actually take profits on that trade. So I did close that out. So obviously anyone that entered that is in the green, and you can either close it out or keep it running if you want to keep it running. We'll go through the Bitcoin TA soon. Also, we did call the AI explosion. I said these altcoins will explode if Bitcoin breaks out. Bitcoin did break out, and I said one of those trends was going to be AI. We saw the AGIX chart was starting to form a nice bull flag. Of course, lo and behold, AGIX did pump out of that bull flag. I think we got a 20% move to the upside. And then obviously this major level was our TP zone. It has come back down into this pocket as well. So maybe a chance for re-entry soon for the people that didn't get in. I see the AGIX main support actually in this region, a little bit lower, and you could probably draw it up to some of the major wicks. I see it in this region in confluence with that 200 MA on the 4 hourly. As a region we could potentially come down to for AGIX as a support zone, but it may not actually get there, and we may want to wait for the next formation of structure on the 1 hourly, because we are forming something similar to what we formed before with a diagonal trend, another flag formation, not as strong as the last one, but we still have 3 touches there. So this could also be a level that you look to trade the AGIX breakout. So I'm just kind of keeping my eye on that one, seeing how it pans out. But yeah, this could potentially be another breakout trade that we take on the shorter time frame. But that still has probably a few hours to go till it eventuates. But moral of the story, well done to everyone that got on some of those trades last week. It was a great weekend for trading. I've closed out most of my positions. Now I'm looking to kind of reconfigure things heading into the week. It is a big week. We have FOMC on Tuesday. That is going to be a major driver or dumper of the market. I actually want to talk about FOMC for a second. Basically, what we're seeing right now is the market is anticipating a 62% chance that they hike 25 bips. And then we have a 38% chance that they don't do anything and they leave the cash rate the same. That would essentially mean in the eventuality that we get a 0% rate hike, so no rate hike at all. I think that would lead to a huge market rally. I think that is really your bull case for equities, but obviously crypto, where most of the strength is right now. Crypto and gold have been performing the best, Bitcoin specifically. And then the 62% probability that we get a 25 basis point hike. If this, which is the more likely scenario, happens, I think we do see a bit of a correction. And if this probability starts to creep up, I think we could see a pre-FOMC pullback. But after the FOMC meeting, I do think we can see the resumption of trend, because at the end of the day, you've got to trade with the trend. And right now, the trend is bullish. So I am kind of prepping for potentially a pullback on Bitcoin and altcoins. But honestly, that would be a great thing, because a pullback would mean potentially opportunities to accumulate. And that would give us a kind of another shot to get some entries on some alts before the next leg to the upside. Keeping in mind, though, it's been a Bitcoin-driven pump, and that until we see a fully fledged altcoin rotation, like I showed you at the start of the show, like this, Bitcoin will continue to perform better than alts. But we're going to go through this, and we're going to look through the charts to work out exactly where we sit here, because that'll give us a better indication as to how we actually trade FOMC. But obviously, this is the big date, the FOMC date, and all eyes on Tuesday, really. I'm going to also do a Spaces on Monday, and that's going to give some more insight into FOMC. So we probably have a couple days now, and although there are some good setups, we probably have a couple days now to really prepare, because once the market moves, especially if we don't get a rate hike at all, this market can move quick, and Bitcoin can quickly move up into this 28K to 31K zone. Similarly, if we do get a pullback, Bitcoin can pull back to this 26.5 zone, which is the key level that originally formed as the main deviation point. Once we broke range high, that zone could also be a decent zone to get some entries if we do have maybe a pre-FOMC dump. And of course, you've also got range high as well. So in terms of Bitcoin's price structure, because it has been the market leader, what I want to kind of affirm right now is where we currently sit. So before we go into any short-term timeframes, let's kind of just run through what's happened over the last week, because a lot has happened and a lot has changed in terms of market structure. So clearly for a long time, we were in this range on the weekly and the daily. Of course, it was very clear to see with range lows at 18.5 and range highs at 25. Now the FTX lows, you could potentially put in range low at 16, but I'm counting this as deviation, just as I was counting that initial wick above at 26 as deviation as well. Just because I think we had a lot of forced selling, a lot of liquidations, and kind of unprecedented events that caused this this bottom formation here. But in general, we had the most price action occurring around the 18.6 zone. So for all intents and purposes, I'm calling that the range low. And then we obviously had range high. And for a while, and actually for quite a long time, from June all the way until March this year, which is almost a year worth of price action, we were in between this range, which is pretty damn crazy. Obviously, had deviation below and price action towards the upper bound of the range, and then deviation above. And then finally, we got a breakout. So we have been in a range for quite some time. I can officially announce that we have broken, as you guys know by now. We talked about that on Friday's show. We've officially broken this range, which was obviously massive for crypto, massive for altcoins, and we have finally started to consolidate above it. So for altcoins, the real bull case scenario was a break of range high, but not only just a break, a consolidation above 25.2K. And that is exactly what we have actually got. We've actually gotten finally a consolidation in the form of a few consecutive daily candles above range high. And if you go onto the 4-hourly, you can see that originally we deviated above, came back down below, retested this key zone, and then officially broke above, tested the 26.5 level again, actually broke above, then tested, and now we're on our merry way to the upside. Of course, we've had a small pullback here. So right now the key zone is 26.5. This level is going to be a key level to hold. Break that level and have a retest. That would be a bearish retest to the downside, which indicates to me range highs at 25.2 is definitely in the picture. I will actually be longing range high if we go that low. I don't know if we go that low, but in the scenario that we get an FOMC shock, like 25 BPS is not really a shock, but let's just say their wording is slightly more hawkish than anticipated and Bitcoin does dump, I think it's possible we get a pullback. And in that case, I would look at opening some longs, because that would be our first bullish retest. So in the past, we had a lot of bearish retests. This was a bearish retest, I guess. This was as well, because like the failure to break indicates the continuation of a bear trend, especially once we came down, retested mid-range, and then had another push to the downside. What we're seeing now is the opposite. We're seeing potentially a positive retest of range high. So actually testing range high as support and not as resistance. And if we do officially test this and we succeed in the challenge and then break back above the 26.5 level, then that would be bullish price action as well. So I'm just outlining that scenario because there's potential that we do get a pre-FOMC dump. And even if, their wording is slightly less liked by the market, maybe slightly hawkish, we could see this scenario. In that scenario, I would be looking at longing the range high zone with a stop below, obviously, in case we end up actually breaking that zone and the market wants to change. The thing you kind of have to realize, though, is just as we kind of got tricked with the deviation above, it's easy to get tricked with deviation below range high as well, even if it tests as support. So you may see a scenario in that case where we kind of wick below and then shoot straight back in, and that will stop people out that have their stop set below range high. So for me, it's actually probably safer to either do two things. One, set your stop quite tight and kind of play the game that if we get deviated, wait, set your stop and then wait for a retest of range high before you long again. Or you can do the opposite and maybe go with less leverage, but put your stop quite low and give yourself some breathing room in case something like this happens. And then you can maybe bank on like a retest of this zone, because we know this will end up being quite strong support if we go below. Just outlining that scenario in case we do end up getting a dip. But for now, the key level is on the 4-hourly and the hourly, this zone here, this 26.5 zone. It was the initial zone that we broke above to. It was also the zone that we retested before pushing to the local highs, which is around 28K. And currently we are forming some sort of flag above this level, but we could easily come back down and test. And that's actually what I think ends up happening over the next couple of days. And then on this zone as well, you'll have opportunities potentially to long as you're kind of diligent with where you set your stops below. So that's kind of where I'm seeing Bitcoin for now. And Ethereum, I'm also seeing something very similar. If we go on to the ETH chart. This is, versus USD. We obviously broke above range high. ETH didn't really have that super strong push above. So its range is slightly higher than Bitcoin's. And although we did see consolidation above, it is looking weaker. We can see that on the ETH Bitcoin chart. Let me get this up real quick. We can see Ethereum has continuously bled versus Bitcoin. Come on, load. There we go. You can see it's continuously bled versus Bitcoin, especially you can see it here. It's pretty clear. We broke below support. We broke below the 200 MA on the 4 hourly. Also on the daily, we also broke below. You see this bearish retest of ETH BTC. Then we saw a breakdown for ETH BTC. So for me, and this kind of goes into the whether it's alt season yet discussion. For me, until we start seeing Ethereum regain some strength, it's not the optimal time to like max long alts. What you want to see from ETH BTC is a reversal of this trend before we're convinced that alt season or some sort of altcoin rotation is happening. Until we get this reversal, it's Bitcoin's time to shine. And Bitcoin remains the better long as price action for ETH BTC and the alt pairs is bearish. Basically, across all altcoins, it's the exact same thing. It looks very bearish versus BTC. That's not a bad thing. It just means we're currently in phase one. Now, what happens in phase one of alt seasons, and look, this can change. The order isn't always the same, but in general, this does generally flow like this. In phase one, we see a flow of money moving into Bitcoin, causing price surges. There's been many reasons why this has occurred. One of the reasons is that the Fed has started essentially implementing the bank term funding program, which is set to inject $2 trillion worth of liquidity over the next year. We've already seen their balance sheet start to tick upwards. This was actually a huge increase, $300 billion injected onto their balance sheet, which cancelled over 6 months essentially worth of progress of quantitative tightening. So it's pretty crazy that in a single week, you can wipe out months worth of progress in terms of QT, but the Fed obviously is in a really tricky spot, and they were kind of forced to offer some sort of bailout to the banks. Now, it's not a bailout in the true sense of the word because equity holders still got screwed over, but it was some form of bailout because it allowed banks to protect their consumers. It's really like a consumer protection mechanism that the Fed implemented, and as a result, that did end up seeing their balance sheet increasing. That's the major reason why Bitcoin is pumped, and Bitcoin has been leading the pump because people are viewing it as digital gold, a store of value, versus what we're seeing, mass currency depreciation. Inflation isn't really coming down maybe as much as the Fed would like. We're seeing speculation. Bitcoin becomes that digital gold inflation hedge potentially one day against crazy currency debasement, and also just in genuine times of turbulence, like we're seeing across the banking sector, a lot of fears of bank runs, continued banking collapses across not only the US but Europe. Bitcoin has been that flight to safety asset. Now, I actually think the USDC situation, which saw USDC depeg, was actually the first bit of precedence that set the scene for Bitcoin to behave like a flight to safety during the banking saga. Because if you remember back to USDC, a lot of people were pulling their money out of USDC to protect their capital, of course, but they weren't putting it into other stables. They were actually putting it into Bitcoin and ETH as kind of an on-chain store of value. And there was even strategies where you could short and long BTC perps to kind of create a synthetic stablecoin. So that was also a strategy to maintain delta neutral exposure, but having a more efficient mechanism to do so rather than taking on counterparty risk through another stablecoin. So Bitcoin kind of had the scene set for it a week ago with the USDC saga, and then when the banking stuff started to happen and a lot of like global financial contagion fears started to spread, Bitcoin essentially acted as a flight to safety and decoupled from equities. If we actually look at Bitcoin USD and we add the NASDAQ, you can see this has been a Bitcoin-led rally. So add the NASDAQ here. I'll put it on the same scale. We can see here that Bitcoin has performed much better than the NASDAQ. So we can see let's go onto the daily chart to kind of exhibit this. Bitcoin's moved up 65% in the same period. The NASDAQ's only moved up 7%. And over the last couple of weeks, Bitcoin's moved up 25% versus tech stocks, which has basically flat. And even over the past couple of days, Bitcoin up 15% versus equities at 1%. You'd have to go all the way back to last July, right? Last July to find, and not even then, let's go, last May pretty much, to find a period long enough over which stocks have outperformed Bitcoin. So basically, if you had a choice to buy Bitcoin or stocks, if you had bought Bitcoin at any point after June, Bitcoin was the better buy. So for a long time, Bitcoin has been performing better. You actually have to go really far back to find a period where holding stocks would be better, back to last May. Ever since then, Bitcoin, although it has been correlated, has been performing much better. And you can see when the decorrelation ended. It ended at the start of March. When this banking stuff started to go down, when the fears of a global economic collapse started to go down, we saw Bitcoin starting to really decorrelate. And we can see here, obviously, the perfect balance of the 200 MA and then the massive pump to the upside for Bitcoin, whilst equities have remained very flat and actually have been trading quite tentatively. The stock market doesn't look great. If we look at the S&P, we can see it's been on a continuous downtrend. Although it did break out, it couldn't sustain the rally. Looks like it is coming back down to follow that trend, but on the reverse side. And then you have S&P price targets all the way down to 35.89. The positive thing for Bitcoin, though, is that even though stocks have been dropping, it's managed to maintain insane relative strength. But not only that, it's basically fully decoupled. So it's been like a monumental week for Bitcoin. It's extremely hard to even summarize everything that's happened. Obviously, if you've been watching the weekly shows, you'd have a good idea, but it's hard to even summarize because so much has happened over the last week. I actually did a tweet earlier. I said, it's absolutely insane. 7 days ago, everyone was panicking about a USDC depeg or a potential widespread bank run, a potential, financial collapse. Just think back 1 week ago, right? Remember last Sunday? The narrative was, tomorrow Coinbase opens redemptions. What's going to happen? Tomorrow the banks open. Is there going to be a bailout or, are they going to collapse? Is there going to be a bank run on Monday? And all the stock futures were down. Do you remember that? That was only 7 days ago. It feels like a lifetime, but it was only 7 days ago. Now, fast forward 7 days later, today, there's talk of a $1 million Bitcoin with the 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗏 bet, which we're going to get into because it's crazy. A new bull run. I'm seeing a lot of tweets talking about a new bull run. A lot of tweets, videos talking about a new alt season. Even the title of this video is about a new alt season because things have just changed so quickly in a week. So basically from fear to greed in 7 days, emotions in this market change so quickly. And it's just a reminder that if things are ever looking too bleak, you don't know when the next narrative is going to come from to turn things around. So there's hardly going to ever be a reason for you to be super depressed for a really, really extended period of time in crypto. There's always something that comes and flips things around. And it can work the other way. So when things are too euphoric, there's always something that eventually comes which flips things around. The key to being a good trader is being able to trade in the interim. So taking advantage of the times that things are performing well, dancing while the music's playing, and having the foresight and the diligence to cut positions and pivot your thesis when data suggests that you should be pivoting. So I think a lot of people get sucked into believing crazy things when prices are pumping. I'm already hearing people calling for 50K, 100K. I'm hearing $1 million. I'm hearing some crazy targets. It's important not to get too sucked in and remember that, look, although this is awesome, and although we haven't even seen altcoins run yet, we haven't even seen what alts can do because this has been a Bitcoin-led run, we have to remember that, Bitcoin is facing significant resistance. And between this 28.8 zone to 31K zone, that's resistance for Bitcoin. Now, are we going to get there? Probability is, we're going to get there. Price action is bullish. The market has momentum. We've already gone half of the way, essentially. I think it makes sense for us to come and test this big level. Some key levels here at around the 30K zone. But if we get there, don't get tricked into thinking like it's a new bull run. I said this a few days ago, even when we were at 24K on one of my shows. I said, look, we're probably going to break range highs. And if we do push up to 29K to 30K, don't get tricked. Don't start thinking about 100K. Don't start thinking about $1 million. Be pragmatic. Trade based on momentum. If we start to break down out of this zone and exhibit bearish momentum, you'll have opportunities to cut your positions. If we do the opposite and we shoot through this zone and then we have a retest, that's obviously going to be a bullish retest for potential continuation to the upside. You've got to trade based on what the charts are telling you. You can't trade based on emotions. You trade on emotions and you'll get completely wrecked. So I want to give you a scenario now for what could potentially happen, and the scenario for what altcoins could do if this happens. So let's say we do get a pull. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just giving you like multiple scenarios so you can plan for them, because you always got to be prepared for different scenarios. So I gave you my scenario of if we test range highs. I gave you my invalidation level if we start to, flip that back into resistance. For now, you do have this key level here. So you kind of have two scenarios, but this is the third scenario, that we actually do come up into this box. That's what the probabilities are telling me. So let's say we do come up into this box and we start to kind of move sideways for a bit. All right, like this. If this happens, Bitcoin does not need to pump for money to rotate into alts. Why? Because Bitcoin at that point, since the 200 MA touch back in the start of March, has already pumped, well, by that point, 50%. A 50% pump in Bitcoin based on the current market cap is a multi-$100 million, like a $200 to $300 million increase in market cap. Sorry, $1 billion, not million. Billion. $200 billion increase in market cap. That is a lot of freaking liquidity that's come into the, obviously not all 200 billion comes into the market, but, let's say, I don't know the exact maths to move prices because it depends on buy and sell volume, but let's say like $5 billion to $10 billion of fresh capital came into the market to get that corresponding increase in market cap. That's a lot of liquidity that just came in. Because Bitcoin's the biggest market cap, and this is why rotations exist in crypto, because Bitcoin's the biggest market cap, it takes a lot more liquidity for it to pump. So Bitcoin pumping 50%, that's taking billions of dollars, right? Billions of dollars. Even if just 10 to 20% of that liquidity leaves, that's still billions of dollars that if that goes into alts, the price explodes. That's just like the basic law of market capitalization, right? Like $1 billion into Bitcoin barely moves the price. CZ is putting $1 billion in. Probably did move the price a bit, but not that much. $1 billion into VeChain, well, that's pretty much more than half its entire market cap. That's going to send this thing 3, 4, 5, 6xing in price. It's going to moon VeChain, right? So $1 billion into Bitcoin is not the same as $1 billion into alts, right? So that is why I say if we do pump up into the 30,000 zone and we consolidate, Bitcoin doesn't need to keep pumping for alts to fly. All you need to see is a tiny bit of liquidity leave Bitcoin, start to filter down into the other cryptos. And at that point, you're going to still get 10, 20x's from your small caps because the small caps have $5 to $10 million market caps. It doesn't take a whole lot of liquidity to pump those things, right? So this is basically the law of rotations in crypto, and that's why we see rotations. Now, the question is, when do we get the rotation? And will there be a rotation? They're kind of two different questions. Actually, the will you get a rotation, that question's first, because if you answer yes, then you work out when. So will we get a rotation? I think we do. Just purely because, yes, this is a Bitcoin-led rally, but basically every single time there's been a Bitcoin-led rally, the narrative is always, it's just Bitcoin, it's just Bitcoin, it's just Bitcoin. But basically, time and time again, we see those claims being disproven. So every time we think it's going to be just a Bitcoin rally, most of the time it ends up being also an altcoin rally at some point. So for me, probabilistically speaking, I think, yes, some liquidity will filter down into alts. But the best part about trading is you don't need to put your money where your mouth is and just completely wildly guess on that being the case. There's actually data that you can look at, price action that you can look at to give you an indication as to when to act. So when to buy altcoins, right? So you don't need to just agree with me and say, oh, there will be a rotation, so let's ape it to alts. No. Look for the reversals. This is the key thing I want to get across. Look for the reversals. So Ethereum, Bitcoin, great example, right? Still bearish. Would you max long alts versus Bitcoin into this chart? No, because it looks terrible, right? It looks terrible. It looks like it wants to retest and then continue to break down. This is like a bad setup. What happens though when Ethereum starts to break back above and break the key points of resistance, these two horizontals, as well as the 200 MA, as well as this diagonal trend, that would start to indicate positive price momentum for alts, and Ethereum leads the alts. So on the breakout of 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝐵TC, that's when I would start getting into alts. As long as Bitcoin's holding, so there's two pieces of confluence you need to look for. As long as Bitcoin's holding, right? As long as it's holding above key zones, 25.2 being the most key zone, or maybe it's even already pumped into the 30K zone and it's just holding the zone. As long as Bitcoin's holding and not breaking down, it can break down a little bit because some liquidity will flow out. But as long as it's looking okay and Ethereum is starting to break out, then that's your indicator to like go heavier into alts. So when we look at the altcoin rotation path to alt season graph here, and we look at where we currently sit, well, okay, we've definitely passed phase one because Bitcoin's had its biggest price surge. Could we still be in phase one? Maybe, because what we're trying to see is the phase overlap, which is where money flows into Ethereum but struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. Money flows into Ethereum but struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. So that is when the Ethereum price pumps, but the ETH-BTC pair is still going down. Now, we've kind of seen that. We have seen that over the last couple of weeks, but it hasn't been aggressive because Ethereum still hasn't had its big push up to 2,000. So what I would like to see to fully validate that we're in this phase 2 zone is when ETH starts to outperform Bitcoin. Because right now we're in this phase overlap phase where money's flowing to ETH, but it's not really keeping up. It's still bleeding in terms of ETH-BTC. ETH goes back and forth with Bitcoin and starts outperforming it is the second part of the phase. Have we seen that yet? No, we haven't seen that yet. Because it needs to flip back and forth with Bitcoin for it to go into phase 2. And we haven't really seen that. It's just kind of been bleeding. You would need to see some rapid expansions to the upside and then some huge dumps, some general volatility on ETH-BTC for this to be the battle that we're looking for in phase 2, right? Something like this. And then you can move into phase 2, and that is ETH taking center stage. And that happens obviously on the break of a few key indicators on ETH-BTC, the diagonal, the horizontals as well. And once that happens, there is going to start to be an alt season beginning into large caps. And then mid caps, and then phase 4, which is a full-blown alt season. This money flow doesn't have to happen, by the way. It can jump steps. It can be weird. There can be fake outs. It's not like a guaranteed thing. I'm just genuinely trying to contextualize what I would need to see to jump heavier into alts versus Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin longs great opportunities to trade, great opportunities to trade ETH. Still great alt setups. We're going to get into some today. I'm definitely still trading altcoins. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about more, going in with size versus Bitcoin. So when you start to weight heavier than Bitcoin and ETH on your trades, that you want to start doing that when phase 2 at least looks like it's coming to an end. So ETH really starts to rip, pull back, get into alts, and then obviously phase 3, phase 4, and beyond, and above and beyond, or beyond that. That's not even the right saying. I'm like losing my words. Continuation. That's the word I'm looking for. Someone says ARB money will start to kickstart DeFi. Yeah, that is definitely one of the potential catalysts. So next week you have headwinds and catalysts, headwinds and tailwinds. Headwind could be FOMC coming in 25 bips with hawkishness. 25 bips with dovishness, I think is fine. Got to be wary of the way that the data is presented. So that could potentially be a headwind. It can also become a tailwind if there's dovish language used, but also if there's a 0 bip hike, there's no hike. Then obviously that's very bullish. That could become a tailwind. You've also got the ARB airdrop. I'm sorry, that's bullish. Don't even need to apologize, but that's bullish. Like it's hard to make the argument that it's bearish because it's basically people are going to have money that they didn't have before airdropped into their wallets. I'm sure hundreds of you watching right now are getting an Arbitrum airdrop Maybe because I did an airdrop tutorial on it a few months ago, maybe. But I'm sure a lot of you are. And the ones that are, that's free money, right? That's money you didn't have before, right? That's potentially $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 plus, 10,000, 20. I don't know. It could even be 6 figures plus, depending on where it launches, that you didn't have before, right? What are you going to do with that money? I doubt all of you are going to withdraw it to your bank account. I doubt all of you are going to take your money off crypto. In fact, I would bet most of you will keep it on crypto and trade crypto because we're degens. And a lot of that money is going to trickle into other DeFi protocols. On the Arbitrum ecosystem first, because that's the most accessible. You're going to be airdrop funds on Arbitrum. The real lazy traders won't even bother bridging off. They're just going to ape it into shit on Arbitrum, and then Arbitrum eco stuff explodes. And then the less lazy people, which is a smaller percentage because most people are lazy, will bridge it maybe to ETH or Fantom or something else, and you'll see other DeFi inflows into other ecosystems. And then you're going to see some people that just withdraw it, right? That'll be the smaller percentage. But some money is going to stay in DeFi. A lot of it's going to stay in DeFi. And a lot of it is going to act as a stimulus to these smaller protocols. So I think it is quite a bullish event for the market, to be honest with you. It's one of the biggest airdrops of all time. It's going to have an impact. I did a video. If you want to look through all the maths and hear my full thoughts on the Arbitrum airdrop, I did a video yesterday. You can check that out on the channel. I am anticipating some huge market movements. Towards the end of this live stream, we'll talk about some of the altcoins I'm looking at in the Arbitrum eco. But yeah, that could potentially be a huge tailwind heading into next week. XRP monthly chart looking good. Any thoughts? All right, let's look at XRP. I'm not really a huge fan, but to be honest, if a chart's good, a chart's good. You don't need to love a coin to trade it. So you said XRP monthly chart, not weekly chart. XRP monthly chart. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's looking okay. It's looking okay. So you have this uptrend, which is quite nice to see. I've only got data back to 2019 here. You've got the key zone in here, which we've obviously broken above. And yeah, as long as it holds this, it can continue to perform well. You've got your key price targets on XRP as the 50. It's heading into resistance at the 55-cent zone. I don't really like trading on the monthly charts. Well, you don't trade on the monthly charts. You use monthly charts to verify where you sit in terms of structure, and then you use lower time frames to verify shorter term trades. For example, if we go into the daily, you can start to see this trend forming, which we've broken above. Depends on how you like to draw it, but I would say we've broken above. And then you've got your shorter term price target at 43. You've also got this key zone in here, which is going to be resistance, but it looks like we want to push up. You've got the 200 MA as resistance as well. I probably wouldn't long now, obviously. You're much better off longing on support. I probably wouldn't long now just because you're heading into this resistance zone. And even if you delete that channel, you can see the 200 MA is basically where we're getting rejected off right now. So I would basically never long any altcoin that's heading into 200 MA daily resistance. It's dumb. I would do the opposite. I would look for alts that have flipped above. So if XRP breaks above and then tests, then yeah, it definitely has that 43-cent price target, and then obviously 55 cents, kind of like your next zone, 50 to 55 cents. So yeah, XRP looking good, but does need to flip this right now. It is heading into resistance. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing for XRP. Just quickly to touch on, obviously we're going to get into alts and more fun stuff, and I'll go through trade plans and stuff. 𝗧𝗏𝗵 light mode. No, I like light mode. I'm really enjoying light mode, man. I think it's unique. Everyone else uses dark, so I like being different. So I just want to kind of wrap up on the Bitcoin front and look at the 1 hourly chart to kind of see if there's any trade opportunities in the shorter term. Basically, what I'm seeing is kind of a flag starting to form. So depends how you want to. The lower end of this flag isn't great, but let's kind of just draw it in like that just to give you an idea. It's not the greatest trend though. More looking at this upper target. I'm going to make this a bit more visible for the guys at the back. Yeah, so this is kind of like the trend Bitcoin's making on the hourly. Definitely needs to break above for a push up to this 28K zone. That's a key zone. I will draw it in here. It's obviously shorter term stuff. Might be a trade, for the degen short-term scalpers, like a small couple % trade up to that zone. I would probably be more wary of the breakdown. So, if we do start to get a breakdown, that's going to be your opportunity, because you got, major horizontal support here. Your opportunity to potentially flip short. That can take us down to this zone, and then of course a break below could result in like a retest of range highs. Could be shorting opportunities if Bitcoin breaks down. So just be aware of that on the hourly. I'd start to prep contingencies. Why am I saying that? Well, just in case we get a pullback pre-FOMC or even like post-FOMC. But I think likely what will happen is like a dump beforehand. We often see just crazy volatility beforehand, and then data comes out. People that de-risked end up going back in once they're like feeling a bit better about themselves, and then we see like a resumption of trend. So that's a potential scenario. Only reason I'm like mapping that scenario is because Bitcoin's starting to like show a little bit of weakness in this zone, and until it breaks above again, and we get continuation to the upside, there's also the chance we reject and come back down. And in that scenario, I would probably look at shorting. But to be honest, shorting this market on any significant time frame is kind of dumb, because it's ridiculously bullish in general. So obviously on the hourly chart, you can make the bearish argument, but as you start to go into the higher time frames like the daily, looks very bullish. Still kind of am seeing this pullback to 26.6. That's logical, because this is kind of like a mini range until you get that break above, and then a test of this key resistance as well. So yeah, pullback could be on the cards. Fantom strong. Fantom is freaking strong. Let's chart Fantom. So for Fantom, yeah, we broke above. So basically, like the key things to note are, and I'll go into the foil to exhibit this a bit stronger. We broke above the 200 MA. We had a break of, a lot of confluence here actually. You have the diagonal trend, 200 MA, as well as the break of the horizontal, the key horizontal at 41, which is here. You saw a push to the upside. Now starting to form a flag. Potentially you can get another push to the upside with that 59-cent price target. So Fantom looking very bullish. Obviously broke above. For anyone that wants to get into a Fantom position, I would wait for a retest. That would probably come at, I think, this zone here at 44 to 46 cents. I think that's a logical zone if we do get that Bitcoin pullback for Fantom to retest. And then you can look at maybe laddering into some positions. Obviously, you want to cut them below 40 cents. If we do break below 40 cents, that'd be where I'd cut. Yeah, Hex did get listed on Mexi. That's crazy. By the way, if you want to trade any of these coins, Bitcoin, ETH, or Fantom, or even the AI coins, because they're not available everywhere, you can trade them on BitGet. So I think Bybit does have some of the AI coins, but BitGet has most of them. But either way, you can trade on Bybit if you want to use Bybit. But yeah, I would trade on either exchange. Obviously on Bybit, you have the $30,000 sign-up bonus. On BitGet, you have the 8,000 sign-up bonus. So link in the description if you want to sign up, get access to that deposit bonus, depending on how much you deposit. And then, yeah, you can obviously claim your rewards and get trading. They've got a lot of pairs. That's the good thing about BitGet and Bybit. They have heaps of pairs. We don't have someone said in dark mode. If I go into dark mode though, I lose my colors, and then I have to reset everything, and like my charts will be impossible to see. Someone wants Filecoin. Filecoin in here. This is actually an interesting one because we had FVM last week, and FVM, which was the Filecoin, basically the Filecoin virtual machine, which is going to allow dApps to be created on Filecoin. That was a huge announcement that I think is going to be a catalyst, but it had kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news run up. So obviously, you had this huge pump in confluence with the massive China coin rally. See this huge pump. Obviously, China coin started selling off. We saw that Bitcoin correction basically took Filecoin all the way back down to 4.7. And then it took like a market strength to get Filecoin back up after it kind of lost that narrative post FVM. And then now it's currently below the 6.4 level. So on Filecoin, what I would look for is a break of the 6.3 zone, very key horizontal level, to start looking at longing again. So we can see this zone here. And that's also going to be lining up with the MA on the 4-hourly. Not a huge fan of using the moving averages on the lower time frames. I actually prefer them on the daily and weekly. So what I would look for Filecoin is a break above the 6.3 level, potentially something like this. And then that could be your signal for a pump up to this zone here, this 7.2 to 7.3 zone, which mind you is a 20% pump. Fucking huge if you're using leverage. Obviously, if you're going to use leverage, be responsible. But that could also happen. But if we do get the Bitcoin pullback, I think this zone for Filecoin 5.1 is a decent load up zone. You can kind of draw that in as one big support zone here as well. So sorry to all the Filecoin bulls. That's your lower target. That would be a 15% move down. That would take some very violent Bitcoin price action to get there. You've also got this level as well at 5.3 to 5.7. I'd just be wary of trying to catch a falling knife. I think for Filecoin, it's just much easier to buy it on the, instead of trying to catch a falling knife, just buy it on the successful like confirmation breakout, retest of 6.3. Probably just way easier. Someone with optimism, Trader XO has been shorting optimism, but it looks pretty good. So I would long optimism at 2.4. We can see this zone here. These like yellow circles kind of indicate how key this horizontal zone is. We've seen multiple rejections of that zone. Obviously flipped into support, flipped back into support again now. Had a retest, deviation below. So I would look for an OP entry in the 2.4 to 2.5 zone. Basically, just to kind of contextualize my thinking around altcoins. Before I go these are just trades. Before I go super heavy, I want to see that Ethereum BTC push to the upside, as I mentioned before, in line with this kind of old season chart. So we definitely want to see ETH BTC push up. We definitely want to see that breakout before I go super heavy on alts. But basically, the general TLDR mindset is, whilst Bitcoin's bullish, buy the pullbacks. Until invalidated by the pullbacks. Invalidation is the break below range high, by the way. So you can basically buy pullbacks until we're invalidated. And at that point, you just want to cut out. So be cutthroat. Have clear invalidations for all your alts. Every alt's different. Every alt has a different support. So draw it in. Line that up with Bitcoin and ETH. And just cut them. If they break down, just cut. Take a small loss. And move on. Because right now, it's kind of like risk reward, I think, on a lot of alts is to the upside. But if we end up getting this scenario where Bitcoin just breaks down and it's a fake out, then at least you've cut your alts and you take your small loss. But just be like willing to act quickly on that and don't hold the bag. What I don't want to see is people aping in and then Bitcoin drops down and then like, I don't know, you hold and hold and hold and then Bitcoin rejects off range high again and we come back down to the range and you're down 50, 60% on a lot of alts. That's not really what I want to see. So that's why you've kind of got that 3-step plan of wait for Bitcoin to consolidate, then look for ETH BTC to start to make a push to the upside. Once you see that in confluence with Bitcoin maintaining structure, then you can look to enter some alt positions with strict levels that you cut that position at. That's probably the best way that I would play the altcoins. That's basically like your 3-step guide to trading alts. Then you're in a good position to take advantage of what could be a potential rotation. And of course, in the show today, we'll be talking about the alts that could perform the best if we see this flow. I'm seeing a lot of people wanting me to chart different coins. We'll get into it. I do have a couple segments planned though. See, this is crazy. I just see this DeFi Llama team is forking DeFi Llama. DeFi Llama's undergoing a hostile takeover. There's an ongoing attempt to launch a token that does not represent us. We don't want to be associated with it. Person who controls DeFi Llama's Twitter and domain has decided to launch a token despite everybody in the team not wanting it. This is crazy. That's why the DeFi Llama team, who've built the site, have decided to fork DeFi Llama. Do not trust any communication from DeFi Llama. What? This is insane. This is actually insane. By the way, DeFi Llama is the best website in DeFi. It is incredible. Has everything. But this is like a bombshell. If you don't know who 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗫𝗍𝗍 is, he's basically the... Was he the founder? He's the head dev, but is he also the founder? Let me just Google it. He might be the founder as well. Yeah, he was the creator. The founder, according to Cointelegraph. Anonymous creator. Let me just do my homework here. I believe he is the creator. So he's the creator of DeFi Llama. This is insane. And he's basically saying, and I'm just seeing this right now, he's basically saying that someone controls the Twitter and the domain, and he's trying to milk it for a token. The team doesn't want to, but they lost control. And now llama.fi is the new DeFi Llama. They just forked it. Fuck. That's actually insane. Wow, 30 people just left. 30 people don't care about this, but this is like huge. It's crazy. So apparently there's a lot of shit breaking in the research group. Let me just get the research up here. What the hell is this drama? This is insane. DeFi Llama says in the Discord that 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗫𝗍𝗍 and a few team members have gone rogue, looking to seize DeFi Llama IP and community while inaccurately claiming the rightful owner is doing a hostile takeover. So DeFi Llama is saying that they've gone rogue. And he's saying that the other guys have gone rogue. So they're basically both calling each other's bluff. Look at this as well. 𝗧𝗏𝗃𝗫𝗍𝗍 says the DeFi Llama's team's forking. He retweeted this. He retweeted the 0x tweet. Let's see if there's anything else coming out. This is crazy. Just look, to me, and I don't know, we're probably going to find out the full details soon. To me, it looks like I don't know who's right or who's wrong, obviously, but it looks to me like, yeah, the team's maybe split internally over like the future of the protocol, and basically one side said, fuck these guys, we're going to do our own thing, and then the other side saying, you know, we're going to keep the domain, we're going to do a token. Maybe potentially they were arguing over the fact whether they should or shouldn't do a token, and one half really didn't want to do a token, and one half really did want to do a token, and then maybe that's just caused them to like go their own way. But this is forking mad, as Gale says. It is really, really crazy. We don't want to be associated with it. This is terrible, because I love DeFi Llama. Do not trust any communication from DeFi Llama. Yeah, I think I trust the founder as well. I think I trust these guys. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I could be wrong. So they're going to have a token now. That's crazy. Anyway, we'll get back to the show. Pretty crazy. Crimson said what's going on. Basically, like DeFi Llama, bit of drama. Basically, they're forking, and then half the team members are leaving, and the other half are like continuing with the original domain. But then the team members that left are saying that they're acting out of the interest of the protocol, and it's pretty crazy. You can't connect your wallets to DeFi Llama anyway. Oh, but if they do a airdrop, I don't know who's right and who's wrong. DeFi drama. Someone said damp coming. I mean, yes, definitely can be a pullback, but from a TA perspective, there's nothing to indicate to me that we should be panicking. It's a very small pullback, and you still have that key level at 26.5. Might be a decent level to buy, set stops below, and then look for, if we do break, then look for re-entries at range high. That would be kind of your scenario for catching the dip. Not that you want to try and catch a falling knife, but given the fact we've been bullish, this is probably a buy the dip scenario for alts. As long as you see what I talked about before play out on ETH. Anyway, let's continue with the show. There's lots to talk about. Lots I've got planned. So, okay. Let's talk about 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍's bet. This is insane. This is probably the biggest thing on Twitter. In fact, I've got to do my tweet. I just remembered I had a tweet on this. It's probably the biggest thing on crypto Twitter over the last few days. So I'm doing a tweet now. Bitcoin won't hit $1 million in 90 days. But the hyper-Bitcoinization theory just got a whole lot more attention. 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍 is using his outlandish bet as a vehicle to perpetuate this narrative, and it's working. Powerful strategy. That's my tweet. I'll get it up for you now, and we'll talk about what happened with 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍, because this is pretty insane. Now, if you don't know who 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍 is, he used to be the CTO at Coinbase. Former Coinbase CTO, also worked for Council. Former general partner at A16Z, basically very smart. And to be honest, for a long time, I've really admired 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍's content. I think he's one of the smartest guys in the space in terms of what some of his takes have been. But this was kind of out of nowhere. This was a crazy claim, seemingly out of nowhere. Basically, what he said was, he said it in a really weird way, but essentially what the bet is that Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million within 90 days. That's essentially what the bet is. And I did a full video on this that's coming out in a few hours, by the way. He says, in 2008, the bankers lied. This time, the central bankers, the banks, and the bank regulators have lied to all dollar holders and depositors. This isn't your typical reserve situation. The problem is that there isn't enough in the banks on a mark-to-market basis to cover withdrawals. They knew this through all of last year and communicated it internally in their coded language, etc., etc., etc. I don't want to read through the whole thing because it's long. This is the most important tweet, though. He's basically betting on hyperinflation in the US, mass depreciation of the dollar, and a shift to hyper-Bitcoinization. What a shift to hyper-Bitcoinization means is the US dollar loses an extreme amount of strength and people decide to flock to Bitcoin as a way to protect their capital, which creates a powerful effect of inflows into Bitcoin increasing, which pumps the price massively, but also Bitcoin's price denominated in US dollars significantly increasing because Bitcoin's measured in US dollar terms. So he said, I'm moving $2 million. So it's a $2 million bet on the fact Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million within 90 days. I will do it with Medlock and one other person sufficient to prove the point. Everyone else should just go buy Bitcoin. It'll be much cheaper for you than locking one up for 90 days. So basically, he's guaranteeing that Bitcoin's going to pump in 90 days. Well, that's what he thinks, at least. In terms of the bet, ideally, someone could set up a smart contract, blah, blah, blah. If it's worth less than $1 million in 90 days, then the counterparty gets $1 million in USD. Hyper-Bitcoinization. We have to define hyperinflation in BTC USD terms because all other fiat currencies can and will be inflated away. That is hyper-Bitcoinization. This is the moment that the world redenominates on Bitcoin as digital gold, returning to a model much like before the 20th century. What's going to happen is that individuals, then firms, then large funds will buy Bitcoin, then sovereign countries like El Salvador and tiny crypto-friendly countries. The big move will be when a US state like Florida or Texas or a normal country like Estonia, Singapore, etc. buys Bitcoin. And when the El Salvador, or is this the, who's Naran? It's the Prime Minister of India. Sorry, I'm getting this guy mixed up with this guy because they have similar handles. Basically, when the Indian Prime Minister tells India's central bank to buy Bitcoin, even as a hedge, it's over. Because that, I mean, all it takes is one nation state to adopt, and then it's kind of that flow-on effect, right? Oh, Capo. Why will it be so fast? Well, hyperinflation happens fast. We've seen digital pandemics, COVID, digital riots, BLM, digital bank runs, SVB. This happened over the last couple of weeks. This was the trigger for this. Everything will happen very fast once people check what I'm saying and see that the Fed has lied about how much money there is in banks. All dollar holders got destroyed. The thing is, people are still tuned to an analog world where things get gradually worse rather than all at once, but there isn't much forewarning for a digital event. It's like 1, then 0. Just like the bank runs, except this is the central bank. There are, however, two sources of forewarning. First is the chart of long-term depreciation of USD versus Bitcoin. In fact, I will get this chart up for you right now. Basically, 1 USD to BTC. Look at this. Basically, over the history of the US dollar, you would have been better off holding Bitcoin. US dollar's been bleeding versus Bitcoin since Bitcoin was created. Obviously, it's had periods where this has shifted, but I think it paints a very powerful picture once you start thinking of US dollars in Bitcoin terms rather than thinking of Bitcoin in US dollar terms. So this has been the trend. 𝗏𝗍𝗍 is expecting this trend to continue. It's down 98.8%. It's actually interesting looking at the 1 BTC to Argent. We see what inflation does to countries. I mean, it's ruined a lot of these third world nations. Argentina being one of them, experiencing crippling inflation of 200% a year. Can you even imagine 200% a year? We're complaining right now about 6-7%, probably closer to 10 because CPI is constantly manipulated. But we're complaining now about our food going up, petrol going up. I'm sure it's hurting a lot of families. As maybe it's hurting some of you as well. Everything's more expensive, rent's more expensive. Imagine having that on a scale like Argentina. Look over the last 5 years, the Argentinian pesos to Bitcoin, it's actually hit basically all-time highs. It's not far off all-time highs. So Bitcoin USD it looks like it's crashed because US dollar's been fairly strong with rising interest rates. But if you can start comparing Bitcoin to other countries, especially third world countries that are experiencing hyperinflation, Bitcoin's actually heading towards all-time highs, which is crazy because these currencies devalue. So what 𝗏𝗍𝗍𝗍's saying is that we're going to see a similar thing in the US where crazy inflation sets in and Bitcoin will pump in US dollar terms like we've seen in countries like Argentina. That's why he's saying could hit $1 million. I think it's a powerful thing once some of these other nations basically have no choice but to turn to Bitcoin. That's really your hyper-Bitcoinization bull case argument that countries are going to be forced to turn to forms of hard money like Bitcoin. Maybe they'll turn to gold. Maybe they'll turn to silver. I don't know. Maybe they'll turn to commodities. But because Bitcoin's digital, it's easier. It's more accessible. It's more divisible. It's easier to transfer. It's just easier than owning gold. It's also speculative-wise like a better investment. If you're looking for upside, if you're really in a dire situation, you need upside. Like El Salvador, then Bitcoin's probably a better bet. Potentially, we could see a lot of these countries adopting some sort of Bitcoin standard or at least adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. So it's kind of interesting. But the US, as 𝗏𝗍𝗍𝗍 has implemented, has depreciated significantly versus Bitcoin. From less than $1 per Bitcoin to 25K per Bitcoin. Much of the smart money has been voting against the dollar since the financial crisis. The end is the digital drop off a cliff, almost invisible on the chart, but highly visible in the world. This tweet is just the second forewarning. It'll be ignored and mocked by people who still trust the US establishment, even after the last few years, who can't imagine that the US banks and media could be lying to them to this extent, but they are, just as they did in 2008. And over the last 10 years, the digital devaluation of the dollar is coming, and it's going to be intense. Very strong tweet from 𝗏𝗍𝗍. Very crazy bet from 𝗏𝗍𝗍 that Bitcoin would hit $1 million in 90 days. The question is, what is a super smart guy like this doing making crazy bets like this? Because I promise you Bitcoin is not hitting $1 million in the next 90 days. It's just not. And I'll obviously happily take the bet on the other side. It's basically free money, right? And if it does, something terrible will happen. And I hope it doesn't hit $1 million, because if it does hit $1 million, that basically means society is crippled by some sort of horrible hyperinflationary event. And at that point, the detrimental effects will be much worse than, they'll definitely offset my bags, which may have pumped. So I don't think it's happening, though. I don't think it's happening. But why is he doing it is the question. Broads alludes to it. Marketing stunt. Yes, that's what it is. It's a marketing stunt. What is the marketing stunt all about? Why is there a marketing stunt? There's nothing more powerful in crypto and just in the world, really, but especially in this market, than the narratives. There's nothing more powerful than momentum. And 𝗏𝗍𝗍 just single-handedly informed and promoted the hyper-Bitcoinization theory to the world, to millions of people. It's all that I'm hearing about on my group chats. It's all that I'm seeing on Twitter. It's all that I'm seeing on Discords. I'm actually seeing it in mainstream media now. This narrative, and you're probably going to podcast run and perpetuate it even further to other podcasts. This narrative is huge, and 𝗏𝗍𝗍 is kicking it off. So he knows Bitcoin won't hit $1 million in 90 days. He's smart. He's basically a genius. He knows. He's making the argument to grab attention. I don't think as a marketing ploy to pump his podcast. I don't think he's that petty. I don't really think he gives that much of a fuck about attention. Maybe he does, but I don't think that's the reason. I think he's obviously very long Bitcoin, and he thinks by perpetuating this narrative that it could potentially start or raise awareness for a significant shift in the way Bitcoin's perceived by the public, but also the Bitcoin price as well. So it's very outlandish, but the strategy's working. This is going to be talked about for the next 90 days. The media is going to start talking about hyper-Bitcoinization for the next 90 days. The general public is going to hear about this in the media and start to question the Fed, start to question the US dollar. That is the point of this bet. And it's very smart from 𝗏𝗍𝗍. He'll lose the $1 million bet. He'll lose $1 million. He doesn't give a fuck about $1 million, right? He's got shit tons of money. He'll make that back with Bitcoin price appreciation if this narrative takes off. And he's certainly given it a shot. And the underlying essence of his original tweet, I think, is correct. It's just much more advanced from a timeline perspective than things in actuality will take to play out. Like the whole 90 days thing is too rushed. Things like this, global collapses sometimes take decades to play out, right? Or even longer. I don't think the US is going to collapse in the next 90 days. It very well may in 30 years. It may even in 10 years. But 90 days is crazy. But the logic behind it is right. There is something breaking from a financial standpoint in the US. You've seen bonds reprice versus interest rates versus equities. Banks are collapsing. Everything's out of whack. And Bitcoin potentially is the solution. And obviously 𝗏𝗍𝗍 is using that as a contextual background to perpetuate hyper-Bitcoinization. Hyperinflation is inevitable. It always has been. Yeah, because I'll show you this. US inflation chart. Look at this. And I've got a video coming out in like 6 hours, which will explain this a bit better. But look at this, right? US inflation, it's high. And yes, it's coming down. But even if it comes down at like this rate, let's say it comes down at this rate, it's not hitting 2% for another 6 years if it comes down like this, right? Like that. Can't draw a line because it's not a trading view chart, but like that. Let's say it comes down like that. That could take 4 years. I don't think it's going to shoot straight down. Why isn't it going to shoot straight down? Because they're doing shit like this. They're injecting money into the banks. They need to bank stop the banks. And although inflation is higher than they'd like at 6%, they have to save the banks, because if they don't save the banks, the whole system collapses. And, well, frankly, they can't risk a bank run. They have to just sacrifice something. And what they're sacrificing now is inflation for the short term. So Bitcoin's running. So they've got an inflation problem. It's a huge problem. The economy is fucked. Frankly, it's terrible, the situation they're in. Horrible. Basically, every narrative that the US has proliferated has been wrong. I'll show you 𝗵𝗍𝗃𝗍's tweet. Not this. The US government has bank stop deposits at... No, wrong. I need the proper tweet. Where's the tweet? Here. March 2020. Inflation won't be a problem. Jan 2021. Inflation's transitory. September 2021. Interest rates won't rise until 2024. Jan 2022. Recession is needed to lower inflation. December 2022. Disinflation has begun. Disinflation. Fucking disinflation. Oh my god. Feb. That's 1 month ago. A soft landing is possible. March. The banking system is stable. Everything they say just is wrong. Basically, if the Fed says something, take the opposite and run with that. Everything that these guys say is wrong. Because they have tried to cool down the market. They've tried to chuck water on the fire, but the fire's spreading faster than they can put it out. And they kind of have to make tough decisions. They have to save certain parts of the economy before they risk the fire spreading to other parts. So they've just printed some more money. It's an oversimplification. It's not printing money. It's actually in the form of loans that need to be paid back. So it's not, I'm oversimplifying, but for all intents and purposes, printed money to backstop the banks. But a trade-off of that is allowing inflation to continue to run rampant. And they'll probably just tweak the CPI definition and change the CPI definition again to get inflation down, because that's what they've been doing. Actually, I saw a tweet before. If the US was using the old definition of CPI from 12 months ago, CPI would have come out at around 10% this month. It's just a tweet, so take it with a grain of salt. It's not fact, but I saw a tweet. And I actually would probably believe it, because I have changed the definition many times. And if that is true and inflation is 10%, which I think it probably is closer to 10% than 6%, because, just ask yourself, have your groceries over the last 12 months increased more than 10%? Mine have. I'm in Australia. Mine are up like 20%. My weekly shops used to be in Australian dollars like $300. They're now $400. And that's in a year. That's 30% in a year. We're not idiots. Like, prices have clearly gone up more than 6%. Someone says probably close to 15. Yeah, it probably is 10 to 15. So they'll just keep changing the definition. For all we know, inflation actually could be up, and the only reason we've seen this tick down is because of the change in the definition. It actually could be here in actuality. This could all just be manipulation. So inflation is a freaking problem. It is a huge problem, and that's why Bitcoin is running at the end of the day, because Bitcoin is digital gold. And at some point, all this money printing and all this inflation catches up with the market, and people need to run somewhere. And where are they running? Right now, that's Bitcoin. Can this change? Can it decorrelate? Yes. It's not an inflation hedge yet. It's not a store of value yet. But every time that Bitcoin reacts positively to financial turmoil, it gets one step closer to eventually being the store of value inflation hedge digital gold that we want it to be. Every time it responds in the face of adversity, it gets credibility. And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, my friends. So the fact it reacted like this was very good. And if in 6 months something else happens and then it also pumps again, that's good. Because eventually it fulfills its own prophecy that enough people think it's digital gold that it becomes digital gold. And the only way they get that confidence is if Bitcoin keeps responding in the face of adversity. That is a powerful narrative. That's extremely powerful. So that's exactly why Bitcoin's running. Now, the title of the video, does that rotate into alts? I think it does, purely based on market dynamics. It doesn't have anything to do with narrative, by the way, because your shitcoin gaming coin is not an inflation hedge. Your shitcoin gaming coin is not a store of value. Your 5 million market cap shitcoin DEX is not an inflation hedge. It never will be. But the reality is most people enter Bitcoin through DEXs. Through SEXs, centralized exchanges. Some people bridge off to DEXs. That initial exposure in an exchange gives you enough of an allure to trade alts, especially if you buy Bitcoin and it performs well and you make some money and you've got profits to play with and you see the power of investing in Bitcoin, then you get greedy and you invest in alts. This happened to me. I first invested in Bitcoin in 2018 or 2019. And I just invested in three things: Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP. Those were the first three cryptos I bought. And that was, I think, when Bitcoin was 5K in 2019. I saw that 5K become 15K. Well, I didn't put in 5K. I put in more than that. But I saw the 5K Bitcoin become 15K Bitcoin. And at that point, around when Bitcoin hit 20 on that first run-up, I'll show you when it was. I don't know the exact month I bought. I could go back into my transactions and look. I need to go into the weekly chart. When I first had that 3x, so I bought roughly... I paid exactly 5K in 2019. So it must have been the start of the year. Must have been April. I bought my first Bitcoin and ETH here. And when I saw this run up to 20, roughly around here, I saw the power of making money in crypto. And it was at this point in 2020 when I started to go in heavier into ETH and DeFi started. And then I got crazy into DeFi, right? So seeing that initial 3x gave me that rush, that feeling of, wow, you can make shit tons of money in crypto. Let me have a play around with the rest. Let me get into small caps because it's fun, and then you just get addicted and then you end up becoming a degen like I did. That same phenomenon that I experienced, I expect more people to experience as Bitcoin performs well. And that's why, at the end of the day, this will affect altcoins positively. Because you may have gotten into Bitcoin for a store of value, but at some point you make so much money that you start to become more fascinated and interested in the rest of crypto. So that's the psychological reasons why altcoins benefit of Bitcoin pumping. And then you also have the more practical reasons of liquidity coming to the ecosystem and having that liquidity filtrate, especially on the centralized exchanges, into altcoins, because a lot of them also have Bitcoin trading pairs. And then you see some outflows into DeFi, and then that tends to perform well, etc. So that's the reason why if Bitcoin pumps, I don't think altcoins are going to decorrelate completely. I don't think Bitcoin will pump forever. I think at some point alts catch up, and when they do, they perform the best. They perform huge. 𝗟𝗍𝗍𝗿 did a tweet. Pretty interesting, actually. He said, there's a 50-50 chance here you can get into mid, lower cap alts and catch 10 to 20 X's. The other side is nearly a total loss, though. It's all on if Bitcoin can decouple here, which it has been. Degen trading is not investing. It's spotting lopsided risk to reward. It's exactly what freaking degening is. It's risk reward trading. I think we're at this moment. A lot of good TA lines up with this being the top of this rally. The macro is also terrible. I kind of disagree with this first line because I think 30K, 28 to 30, but yeah, it could be the top of this rally. Depends how you view it. He said the macro is also terrible. Yeah, it is. That's actually the reason why Bitcoin's been pumping, by the way, because it is terrible. By the way, Alex, I love you, Alex, if you're watching. You've kind of called it wrong for the past couple of months. No offense. You were kind of bearish at 19 and 20 and 23 and 25. So you kind of have called it wrong, but I still respect your opinion. That's why I'm reading it out. It all rides on Bitcoin decoupling. If it doesn't, this is toast and bailout. ASAP will go to zero. To me, if it does, this is the last chance to get absurd returns on mid/lows. I also see a short squeeze to 31, then down. The risk here is losing 50 to 60%, but if right, gaining 10 to 20 to 50x's from lows. It's a tough one. So what Becca's describing here is the phenomenon of asymmetric returns. And asymmetric returns are the reason why I think investing in alt soon could be a decent play. Yes, you can lose your capital, but if you win on those trades, then you're putting yourself in a position for big rewards and you're only taking on a little bit of risk. Especially, let's say you enter an alt position and then you have your stop, it's roughly at a 20% loss. You're risking 20% of your capital. You're putting yourself in a position to get a 5 to 10x. Maybe you're even risking all of your capital, 100%. But when you're putting money in, you're expecting you can lose it with the rewards being huge. So what I'm doing is I've got some money on centralized exchanges and some on chain as well. The money in my exchange accounts I'm willing to lose. Money I'm saving is in my bank account. If I'm saving cash, it's in my bank. It's locked away. The money I'm willing to lose is in my exchange accounts. And that money will be used for these altcoin bets. And if they lose, it's fine. I'm pursuing that big reward, but I'm also open to the fact that it fails and I take that risk, right? But it's all about finding asymmetric opportunities. That's what altcoin investing is. It's not always about TA. TA helps get entries, but at the end of the day, it's about finding those trades where the reward is way bigger than the risk. The money in the bank you'll lose. Bro, I'm in Australia. The banks are under much stricter provisions than the US. And if anything happened to them, the government will bail them out. And also all deposits up to 250K are insured. And you can open up multiple bank accounts if you want. So I'm not too worried about losing my money in a bank. I feel much more comfortable keeping Australian dollars or US dollars in a bank than keeping it on chain in stables. That's just me. Now, obviously, I keep some on chain. I need liquidity to trade. I need stables. I just need them if I want to trade, if I want to open a trade, because that's where most liquidity pairs are. You need stables, right? USDT mainly. But most of my long-term savings is in cash. I'm all about crypto being the future, but I'm also about, capital preservation. I don't want all my money in Tether. Fuck no. So yeah, it depends what country you're in. The Australian banks are not going down. ANZ is not going down. Commonwealth is not going down. NAB's not going down. Westpac's not going down. If it's a small bank, maybe. But I mean, all deposits are insured up to $250,000. There's also private insurance for businesses. There's also there's so many backstops here. We're over-regulated to death in some ways, but in some ways it's good because it allows, it just gives us that peace of mind. I don't know, if you're in the US in a niche bank, I'd be worried. But here, I'm pretty much chilling. But I do have some stables as well. I wouldn't trust any gov. I trust my government more than I trust Tether, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm not saying Tether's going down. I'm just saying at least we have some sort of transparency with our banks. They have to publish reports, audits. Their balance sheets are public. Their income's public. We've got insurance. Tether, we don't even know. We don't have audits. We don't know. Like, they barely even report. They're very weird about their liabilities. I still hold Tether. It's a risk I'm willing to take, but it's just risk reward. And to be honest, stables are riskier than cash. Let's be honest. The reason most people use stables is like usually for tax reasons, right? Less so than like actual security reasons. Miles's milk is chilling. What more can I say? Top billing. What are you listening to, bro? What are you listening to? So there's a couple things I want to pivot into altcoin talk now because we've talked enough about general stuff, the market. Let's talk about this degen. Let's talk about alts. Let's talk about altcoins that can perform well. What altcoins I'm looking at buying. Let's talk about all that stuff. That's way more fun. Let's do it. Smash the like button if you haven't already. It's about to get fun. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Jason just deposited $20. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, let's have fun. Let's get into alts. Let's do it. Let's do it. We've had an hour of general market talk. Before we get into alts, some of the stuff I'm going to be showing you is on DEXs. Some of the stuff is speculative. Obviously, this video is not financial advice. I want to mention that you should probably protect yourself with a VPN. We have a deal in the description for 59% off NordVPN. $3 a month to protect your identity online, potentially save you thousands of dollars. And if you don't like it, you've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, yeah, for some reason, after 28 days, you don't like it, 15 days, you don't like it, you can get your money back. Basically, risk-free to try a VPN using the link in the description. But if you don't want to use it, just get a VPN. At the end of the day, obviously I'd like you to use my link because we make money off it. But more above and beyond my financial gain, it's more important that you stay safe. So you just use any VPN, right? Just giving you the option to use ours if you want to support the channel. As long as you're using a VPN, that's all that matters. Also, if you want to trade any coin, before we get into the alts, you can trade on Bybit or BitGet. Bybit, you've got the 30K bonus. BitGet, you've got the 8K bonus in the description. BitGet has the AI coins. Bybit has basically every other pair. So lots of pairs there as well. All right, let's get into it. I don't know whether to use the new DeFi Llama or the old one. I'm really torn. I'm really torn. All right, let's answer some questions on alts. I've got a segment prepared on solidly forks. I'm just super confused because I had that segment on DeFi Llama. And now I don't know which one to use. But anyway. So I did a video last week that talked about some of the alts that I'd buy. Some of these are perp dexes. I think what happens when the market pumps is a lot of the time, well, trading volume increases, obviously, when the market pumps. When trading volume increases, you see an increase in revenue across dexes, centralized exchanges. Protocols where you can capture upside to the revenue via fees, like on GMX, GNS, those protocols tend to perform really well because people invest in them in order to capture fee upside. And you're going to get that through gains, through GMX, etc. Gains are super interesting. There's actually two I'm looking at. Obviously, I'm a bag holder of Gains. G-Trade also sponsors the show, so that's their DEX. Full transparency. So take anything I say with a grain of salt. But I really like the team. I really do like the team. Their fee growth's been amazing. We've continuously seen growth in fees, not only on crypto, but on Forex. They've also dropped a little bit post Arbitrum airdrop announcement. Gains is an interesting one because it's in the purview of the Arbitrum airdrop. So when Arbitrum gets its airdrop, well, it's an Arbitrum token, right? So it's probably going to run. But above and beyond that, it can experience upside from just trading revenue growth, which it's already seen over the past few months, but it can continue to see. The trend is up. It's up only. I'll show you it actually. Gains network trading volume. June. I will chart GALA afterwards for you, Frost. So this is the daily trade volume. It's basically on a moon mission. This purple line is the cumulative trading volume. It just goes up. And it's not only just going up, it's like exponentially growing. It's pretty impressive. These red lines, I'm trying to zoom in, but it keeps scaling. Here we go. These red lines are Forex. So it's not just crypto. Some days it does more Forex than crypto volume. And it actually is doing stocks volume as well. Because it has some stock pairs now. It also has gold and silver and stuff. So we're starting to see, especially post Arbitrum launch, a massive uptick in trading volume across a variety of sectors. Now, trade volume means increased fees. Oh, can we load, June, please? Please load. Daily users won't load. Daily fees won't load. Well, I kind of need daily fees to load because my next point was, look at the fees going up. Come on, man. It just doesn't want to load. Anyway, if trading volume goes up, fees go up. That's obvious. So just kind of imagine the graph will look the same in your heads. Daily P&L of traders is going down, obviously. Most traders lose. That's just the reality of traders. So don't be a dumb trader. Don't be a loser. Try and make money. But in general, P&L's down. Now, when P&L's down, that pays the depositors of the LPs and the deposit of the LP tokens. They make yield. The more people lose, the more yield they make. The more yield they make, the more people deposit, the better it is for the protocol. We're also seeing Arbitrum volume significantly outpace Polygon now. Their Matic volume is static. Their Arbitrum volume is growing. The reason why I think gains could be a good bet for upside, still, even though it's pumped heaps, I got in at $1.50, right? I'm sitting in huge profits. Most of you are too, because I shared this with you really early. On my Twitter at $1.36, I shared this. And I shared it on the show at $2. So we're up 4 or 5x. I've my initials out. I'm riding profits now. I'm riding my moon bag. I'll keep adding to my moon bag. I'm in a great position. But the reason why I think this could run even further, and obviously this isn't financial advice, this is just speculation, is because what may happen is post-Arbitrum airdrop, when liquidity gets dropped into the eco, people may choose to trade on gains with some of that liquidity. So let's say you get $10,000 worth of ARB tokens. You sell those ARB tokens. Now you have $10,000 of stables in your Arbitrum wallet. What are you going to do with those stables? Some people are going to trade them. Some are going to go into other DeFi protocols, but some are going to trade. Now, where do you trade on Arbitrum? Well, honestly, there's not that many places to trade on Arbitrum. You've got GMX, you've got GNS, you've got 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗲. Basically, a lot of these people are going to start trading on gains, and 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗲 and GMX. So all of these tokens are under that, not just shilling gains. I think all of them can do well. But I think trading volume can definitely uptick on Arbitrum because people are going to have money in their wallets that's ready for trading. And this will likely see an increase in trade volume. Now, the question is, how much will that offset the decreased volume that comes as a result of people no longer airdrop farming? Because now people know the snapshot's taken, they can't airdrop farm. Will trading volume go down? I don't think it will on gains. I don't think that many people wash traded through gains for the airdrop, to be honest with you. I don't think the percentage is high. I think the inflows will outweigh the outflows. It's just speculation, but that's the feeling I'm getting. Also, the fact we didn't get a major drop-off after the announcement in trade volume is a great sign. It's March 20th. People have known for 3 days now that there's going to be an airdrop, and it still hasn't dropped. TVL hasn't dropped. Trade volume actually has been very strong. Had its all-time high day a week ago, albeit before the announcement. So I don't think we're seeing any signs that that's the case. Supply is pretty steady at 30 mil too. Good tokenomics. So that's just gains. GMX is 1. That's on the Arbitrum side. Quenta, I'm starting to get very interested at. I can't chart this one for you guys because there's no historic price data. I would love to give you an entry, but I will be buying this token when I buy my alts. You guys know when I'm buying alts. I'm waiting for an ETH uptick versus BTC, and I'm waiting for a pullback. Or if we don't get the pullback and Bitcoin rips, I'm waiting for consolidation. Then I'll buy alts when ETH starts to move versus BTC. Not just ETH, you can look at individual altcoin pairs. I recommend doing that because some alts have narratives that run more than others. But when that happens, Quenta's on my list for buying. So this is all about preparing your buy lists. Why is Quenta on my buy list? Well, I just think the narrative's super strong. For perp dexes still, look, to be honest, a month ago, I was thinking like this perp dex thing has to end. Because I called this in October, November, and it's been like 6 months now. It's like, well, it's got to end. But the order book models aren't progressing quickly. The AMM models don't allow for leverage trading. So the Oracle-based models, like these perp dexes, I think they're the ones that are still going to capture short to intermediate term upside from increased trading volume. By the way, if there's a rotation from Bitcoin to alts, trading volume will explode. A lot of people don't just want to trade Bitcoin. It's boring for a lot of degens. If you're on GNS or GMX, you're a degen, right? Most people are a degen already. They're going to want to trade alts, and the alt volume will only kick up once we see that rotation start. That is when the volumes on these projects can move. And then obviously the prices will move in tandem with the increases in as they reprice versus fees. So yeah, that's why I'm looking at perp dexes still, short to medium term. Really still fairly bullish on them. As altcoins that I'd be buying if the market ticks off those conditions I talked about. Someone said, why wait? To be honest, you can start, if your thesis is we're going to get an altcoin rotation, you can start DCAing. The only thing I will tell you is if you are DCAing, you have to be prepared to DCA down to 25.2, and you have to be prepared to cut those DCAs if we have a bearish reversal. For a lot of people, it will just be easier to wait for Ethereum to start to show some life and then get into alts. For some of you, you may just be better off DCAing. The other thing I want to make clear, but just remember, if you're DCAing, you have to be aware of the fact you may have to cut at some point. You're going to need stops, and you have to be willing to kind of try and catch a knife a little bit. And you have to be willing to accept that it could fuck up and these DCAs could just end up losing you money. Someone said, I can't wait, bro. I'm too greedy. There's no rush, though, because it's still a Bitcoin pump. We're not seeing the alt life just yet. And you can trade setups on individual alts. I forgot what I was going to say before I was looking at comments. I got distracted. What is your idea about the alt season? After alt season, we'll full hard. If we do get an alt season... Yeah, okay, I remember my point now. It's actually in line with what you're saying. If we do get an alt season, they will dump hard. Because afterwards, what you have to remember is anything you buy now... I mean, look, it's up to you how you trade. but I'll just speak for me. Anything I'm buying now, I'm not buying with a long-term time horizon. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 2 weeks if things pump. I'm not an altcoin hodler at these levels. I'm not a long-term buyer at these levels. I still think, personally, and I may be wrong, I still think at some point we come back down to around 20K. Don't know when. Don't know how much lower we go than that. I don't know. I just think we get a major pullback at some point this year. But you have to dance while the music's playing. That's the thing about trends, man. You gotta go with the trend. You can't swim in a river where the current's flowing against you. You're not gonna go anywhere. You're gonna just stagnate or go backwards. You'll run out. You'll get tired. You won't be able to last. You won't be able to keep swimming. Much easier to swim with the current. And then when the current changes directions, know when to start swimming the other way. That's the key to trading. Now, that may not apply to your long-term bags. I have altcoin positions, which I'm holding for 2 years. Some of those positions, I just DCA. I don't give a shit about the market because I think in 2 years, they'll be significantly higher than they are today. For those coins, this logic doesn't apply. I'm talking about the short-term rotation plays that are available. We've already killed it over the last few months. We've hit some amazing trades. Now isn't the time to risk all of those profits. But now is definitely the time to start preparing for what could be a bigger move for alts. Absolutely. Start preparing at the very least. Not everyone's going to be an expert swing trader either, Remco. And I'm not an expert swing trader. In fact, I'm not an expert at T. I'm not an expert trader. What I am good at is identifying altcoin narratives. And if you can line up those narratives with general market movements, you're going to make money as long as you know how to take profits. You don't think Bitcoin will go back to 20? With all due respect, it went back to 20 a week ago. And it happened in 18 days. Half a month. Basically 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. You can have a full reversal. Bitcoin can pump and do this and then have a full reversal back down super freaking quick, guys. Why? Because this is the most volatile the market has ever been. From a macro perspective, things are the most volatile they've ever been. The pumps are more aggressive. The dumps are more aggressive. Everything is on a swivel. We're running on a pendulum. Bullish, bearish. And the moves are getting more and more violent. So I would not discount the fact that we come back down to 20 at some point. It may not happen. And the higher we go, the more probability we don't have of going to 20. But I'm not ruling it out as a new bull run. You're going to see a lot of stupid people making the mistake of calling this the new big bull run that like 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍, that take us to $1 million. We don't know. We need to see how the macro plays out, guys. We have to see how long Bitcoin stays decorrelated for. I think it could be 1 to 2 months. And in that time, altcoins could perform well, but we don't know. We could get a really crap FOMC on Tuesday and then things change. So it's too hard to predict it's too hard to predict medium term. Obviously, long term, we know what's going to happen. Bitcoin will go to 50, all-time highs 100. Long term, we know. Short to medium term, we don't really know. So that's why you don't want to put all your eggs in the shorter time frames. But the eggs you do put in, they're high conviction eggs that can make a lot of money. And the Arbitrum trade is one of them that I'm looking at. Like I told you with some of those perp dexes as well. I am also looking at gaming. Something very interesting happened across gaming coins. We saw some of them starting to break out. PYR smashed it after Trader SC's tweet. It's actually, I've been accumulating, we've nailed the entries. I tweeted this on my Twitter a few months ago. for entries at like $2.40. In fact, if I can get it. Yeah, see this tweet? So we got our first long-term entries at 260. Next entry at 3, and then other entry at 3. So we have a rough $2.75 buy zone on PYR. From those buys, we're up 50%. We're now at a pretty critical level. We're approaching this diagonal trend. If you do get a break and a retest, then you can pump to $5 very easily. In fact, I am seeing $5 for PYR now because it's in a range. And if PYR breaks out of the range, your next price target's not till $8. That could be an explosive one. I think you've missed the spot buy. I think it was here on the daily 200 MA. That was when SC tweeted. Unfortunately, he pumped the price 16%. But I would wait for a break and then a retest of this zone. Confirmation buy, you can ladder in up to the $5 high. That's PYR. What other gaming coins am I seeing? Magic has the benefit of running off Arbitrum hype and gaming hype. So, and look, gaming's not super hyped yet. I still think AI is the better narrative to be in, but gaming's just showing a little bit of something at the moment. I think this zone for Magic is a zone I'd like to buy at. $1.30 to $1.50. It's actually at resistance right now. If it breaks above, it's still not the best trade because then your next TP zone's at like 220, which is only a... I mean, it's a 20% move. It actually could be a decent buy. But then, look, to be honest... actually, no, this happened on a downtrend. Because what I was going to say is we deviated above and that could, like, wreck you. But the difference is this was their kind of dead cat bounces on a trend down. Whereas this is different. You're getting the trend up and then you're getting pullbacks. Much better to buy these pullbacks, set your stops below and look for higher. So yeah, I would actually take that back. I would actually look at longing Magic. On the break and the hold of 183, probably on the 4 hourly and the daily for sure. But more so the 4 hourly. If we get rejected and pull back into this zone, this is the zone I'd look at buying. So let's say we do something like this, get a bounce, pull down. That's the zone I'd look at buying Magic. What other gaming coins? IMX is hot. IMX will be great for longs, but more just trading longs. GALA. Someone wanted me to chart GALA. Magic is Magic. By the way, where can you trade Magic? Because I'm not sure it's everywhere. BitGet or OKX. So if you do want to trade Magic, BitGet, we have the $8,000 sign-up bonus. That has Magic. I don't think Bybit does, but OKX also has it. OKX as well has a $10,000 mystery box. So if you deposit $50, you get up to $10,000 there. So those exchanges have Magic in some of the Arbitrum tokens. Link in the description for that. For BitGet, Mexi also has it. Not sponsored by Mexi. I also genuinely believe BitGet, Bybit, OKX, they're the best exchanges to trade on from a UI perspective. I wouldn't be partnered with them if I thought they were shit. And I wouldn't trade with them if I thought they were shit. So GALA is the next one I was going to chart. Okay. I'm having to redo all my charts live, but it's good. Puts me under the pump. It tests my charting skills live. So this is very good for GALA that it broke above the 200 MA on the daily. That is a really positive sign. That is great. In general, when you're trading altcoins, if they're above the 200 MA on the daily and the weekly, the higher time frames, I'd say daily is the best though. 4 hourly is decent as well, but daily is the best. Then that's a very good signal that it's bullish and it's good to long. GALA, very obvious long. And that would be the break of 5 cents and the retest. Like, that's just obvious. This is the zone you want to long if we retest. Because then you can and retests are a luxury. You don't always get them. If you don't get them, you don't get them. But yeah, then you've got price targets of like 7.3. Problem is we can also get rejected, so it's not always up only. There's a chance here that we reject off this zone again, and then there's definitely a short back down to the 200 MA. If this plays out, then you can make money off the short as well. So let's just see how it reacts to this zone. Super key zone on the daily. Probably going to take a couple days to play out. On the shorter time frames, I'm even going to go hourly. You've got this trade. This to the upside is quite small. It's 5%, but there is a trade there because this is a pretty obvious flag on the 1 hour. If we break that flag to the upside, then yeah, obviously you want to ladder out at 5 cents. That would only be, I say only, it's like a 5% move. I'll actually probably take that trade just for a bit of fun. 5% move will make on 7x leverage. It depends, like 10x leverage 50, 7x leverage 35%. It just depends. But that's like a short-term scalping. Like basically the point of this video is more altcoin rotations, longer term. But shorter term, you do have GALA ready for a break. And if it breaks down, and we do start to get that scenario that I outlined before, if it doesn't even make it up here before we get rejected, if it just comes straight down, you can also reject off the bottom of this flag. And then you've got that MA target as well. So on the hourly, see how GALA reacts. Does 𝗏𝗏 have fun games? Not sure. Not sure what 𝗏𝗏 is. Let me look it up. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Nakamoto Games. No, I've heard of it actually. Yeah, I've never played their games. They're on Polygon. Are they on any other networks? Don't think so. Whoa, there's a lot of games here. They're not like crazy games though. They're like more like arcade, you know? They're on Polygon. Yeah, I don't know much about it. Okay, let's talk about solidly forks, because these are something I have my eye on as well, if the market runs. So we all know solidly. It was Andre Cronje's baby. It was the technology that he self-proclaimed was his greatest invention. His greatest invention ended up being, well, I guess abandoned. Once he left it, the team kind of let it die and the flywheel broke. But the tech was so good in terms of, I mean, it's a bit of an experiment. It's very experimental and these coins are risky, but the premise behind it was, you know, how can we create better tokenomics for users to be more incentivized to hold tokens under a DEX model, an AMM model, how can we create flywheels, but also increase capital efficiency of trading and staking? So solidly forks, for me, are super interesting. Now there's a few good options in this space. Velo has been a success story so far. That's where the TVL is going. Thane is interesting on BNB. They're doing some cool things. I think Equal on Fantom. If Fantom keeps ripping, Equal and MPX, I've been talking about them for a while. They're going to be good. I think MPX is, that's a perpdex, by the way. It's starting to come back a bit. It did have a drop. Fuck, I'm going to buy some of this. Not FA, I'm going to buy some of this. This is one I'm DCAing into. So there are some tokens you can look for setups. This is just one I'm just going to stack a little bit of because it's freaking low market cap. FDV of 29 mil. It's like, I'm kind of just going to stack a little bit. Non-FA. But I just noticed it's down 18% today. Is there a product launching soon? There you go. There's some trading pairs. It's a clunky interface so far, but it's cool. Anyway, small size on Fantom. But basically, I think Fantom has market momentum, so I'm looking at Fantom alt. So Equals one of them as well. But there's one who are also a sponsor of the show, Satin, which are launching soon, which I think probably have one of the most interesting models. They made a lot of improvements on Solidly, and they're very different from their competitors. And it's one that I'm excited about. It's launching in a few days. So thanks, obviously, to Satin for sponsoring the show. Not sponsored to shill the token, of course. I'll give you my objective look on the project. I'll also be covering them from a DEX perspective, but I do want to run you guys through what's happening with their exchange as well. So it's a Solidly fork, but it has advantages over other Solidly forks. Some of the advantages, the major advantage is cash, right? No other fork's really done this. It's essentially a index, which is comprised of stable coins. So it's a 100% collateralized stablecoin index that's pegged to a basket of stables. It's like USDC, USDT, etc. And DAI as well. So essentially, it provides a flow of stable yield via depositing into a battle-tested and audited strategy on-chain. The goal of the index coin is to allow investors to gain exposure to yield opportunities of the supported collaterals on-chain without having to personally manage the underlying assets. This function occurs with the 24-hour rebase distributing real yield to token/LP holders. Cash is the main utility token of the Satin exchange. So I haven't seen many Solidly forks implement something like this. It's very cool, because you'll be able to claim cash rebases in the Vote Escrow Satin. And I'll explain actually more about this in simpler terms later. I'm just giving you an overview for now. You'll be able to claim cash rebases in cash LP pairs with low fees. And the Satin token has a decay. So essentially, they're creating this liquidity flywheel. And I think it's super cool because we haven't really seen this model in terms of having your LP comprised of stables and then being able to earn rebases based on that index and execute strategies on chain that allow you to kind of take the back seat, sit a bit more comfortable in stables, but also earn yield. So it's pretty cool. And obviously the Satin supply is limited as well. So this is launching. I'm going to show you as well, maybe because there's an airdrop, how to potentially get an airdrop in this as well. Someone said massive lockup times. Yeah. I'll get into that as well. So cash is the main utility token, and cash is obviously going to be $1 indexed by the stablecoins, USDC, USDT, and DAI. Satin is the emissions token of the exchange. VE Satin is the governance token of the exchange. So in order to earn rewards via exchange fees and get paid as well in the form of bribes, you will need to lock Satin Cash LP. Now, I'm not telling you to do this or not to do this, because obviously if you invest in Satin, that's completely up to you. But that is how it's going to work. If you pair it with cash, you get a boosted APR. due to the cash rebase mechanism. So the rebases of the cash token are incorporated in to the VE Satin. That's once again something very unique about the exchange. And it's going to allow you to reduce trading fees, which will result in higher volumes for the pairs. It's very interesting. It's extremely interesting. So there's a couple major updates. So their launch has changed. Their launch is now, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to give you guys an update. Their launch is now, I believe, on March 23 is Epoch 0, and March 30th is Epoch 1. So that's in 3 days Epoch 0, and then 10 days is going to be their first epoch. So if you provide liquidity to the cash pairs, you're going to get 60% of the cash rebase from your pool auto-bribe to that pool during the following epoch. So having deep liquidity with cash can kickstart a nice auto-bribe scenario. Acquire Satin Cash LP and lock for VE Satin. So Satin Cash LP is what's needed to lock for VE Satin to earn bribes, to earn rewards. This will give you voting power. You'll receive cash rebases. You receive Satin emissions. So yeah, emissions start. They changed Epoch 1 to March 30th. That's when emissions start. Partners can set up their bribes for Epoch 2. VE Satin holders start voting for Epoch 2. Could you show us how they work? So when they launch, I'll stake. It's in 3 days and then 10 days for Epoch 1. I'll stake and I'll show you how to do it. I'm just preparing you guys now because it's launching in a few days and there is an airdrop. And if you're interested in getting access to it earlier, you'll need to be in the game for that airdrop early. Their tokenomics have also shifted. So they've updated their tokenomics a little bit, or they've provided an updated document for the tokenomics. Solely fork sites are confusing. Yeah, they are complicated. So my goal is to simplify it. I mean, you have cash, which is your index. That's made up of stables. You have Satin. That's the emissions token. In order to get VE Satin, which is vote escrow Satin, to earn cash rebases, you need to pair cash and Satin. You can also stake cash. You can stake Satin. But for the full effect, they're trying to get people to lock cash and Satin. These people earn fees off swaps. At the end of the day, they're a DEX. That's what solidly forks are. Those fees are going to be paid back to the lockers. It's basically a flywheel, an emissions flywheel. And I must say that these are speculative. I'm not telling you to ape or go crazy. Like, these are speculative. I'm making solidly plays personally. I'm more experienced, obviously, in DeFi. Some of you will also be experienced. Be careful. But also note that if the market continues to rise, typically these like super risky degen things pump more. And I'm just looking for positive flywheels. Anything that has a positive flywheel, I'm very interested in. Because positive flywheels give you additional upside because they tend to outperform. And that's something I think can happen. All right. So the tokenomics. The Satin token, this is their emissions token. Actually, decent supply. So LP emissions are 62.5%. That's good. The private backers and the team aren't taking too much. 17% allocated for this entire section, which includes an airdrop, 20% for protocol fees. Actually, better tokenomics than Arbitrum. Arbitrum took 44% for the team, which was crazy. So this isn't too bad. Satin distribution. This is what things look like. So this is essentially how the rebases look for VE Satin lockers. So 60% of cash rebases go to VE Satin lockers in the form of auto bribes on cash liquidity pools, which VE Satin holders can vote for to receive bribe income. So if you have VE Satin through staking your cash and Satin pair LP, then you can vote for bribes. So the way you get paid, you got to be active with these ecosystems with the Solidity forks. The more active you are, the more you can vote, the more bribes you can receive. While this takes some cash rebases out of the hands of liquidity providers, adding bribes to their pair will ultimately bring more yield to them. $1 of bribes always almost attracts $1 of emissions to the pair from VE Satin holders, creating a net benefit for liquidity providers as well as everyone else. You can see this mechanism playing out here. So more liquidity means more fees, so more bribes, more incentives to lock VE Satin, which leads to more locked Satin. Deeper Satin liquidity equals more scarcity for the token. Satin price goes higher due to scarcity. Pools pay more because they're denominated in Satin, so when the Satin price is higher, the pools pay out more yield, which results in more liquidity. This is the flywheel for Satin. And in the middle of all this, you have swap fees going to the cash investment treasury, cash rebases going to the treasury, as well as LPs. LPs earn yield. That's why they're incentivized to LP. A percentage of Satin emissions paid to the LPs as well, 96%. A small amount, 4%, goes to the lockers of VE Satin, so the people that staked cash in Satin. And the rebase, 60% of the cash rebase goes to the lockers. Only 40% goes to LPs and the treasury. In terms of swap fees, 90% of swap fees goes to lockers. So to capture upside from the DEX component, you need a lock for VE Satin. Then you've got 10%, which goes back into the treasury. This is the more complicated graphic that contextualizes, and you might want to just look up their own medium, that contextualizes how this works in the bigger picture. So I just explained how it works on in terms of the Satin token, but this is the full picture that explains how the rebases work in regards to the partner pools, the main pools, and where things flow into the treasury. I'm not going to read out everything because I think the other graphic was actually better. Gives you more of an indication as to how the flywheel works. But for the ones that really want to understand how everything interacts with each other, this is the graphic. Now, this may be confusing. Hopefully I've done a decent enough job at explaining it. Their documents do explain it. So if you go into stable.labs on their Medium, you can look it up. www.𝗬𝗿𝗍𝗍. The gist of it, though, is that they're creating a flywheel. It is experimental. It's new. It's different. They're creating a flywheel. I'm interested to see how it plays out. It's going to be very intriguing. And if you're interested as well, they are doing a giveaway. So they're giving away $200 in cash daily until launch. So if you do want to potentially win a giveaway, they're running giveaways for 2 weeks. There's another 8 days to go. You can join their Discord and join their testnet channel. There's actually only, you got a decent chance of winning because there's actually only 3,000 people in their Discord. Also, they're doing an airdrop. So if you want to be the latest with the airdrop announcement, join their Discord. I've left the link in the description of this video to the Discord. I think it's the first sponsor link. So if you click the link in the description, join their Discord just to stay involved because there will be new announcements that come out that I won't have time to give you that you can check out via the Discord. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Once again, they are a sponsor of the show. So shout out to 𝗬𝗿𝗍𝗍 for sponsoring. I think with the project Epoch Zero in 3 days, it's a very interesting time to at least check it out and do some more research. I'm not saying you should buy anything. I'm not shilling the token. I just think it's something that is worth researching because Solidity forks in general are quite an interesting niche. And I'm continuously looking at new ones in this space. As I said, Equals cool, Thana's cool. They're all doing unique things. Someone said XCAD. I don't really know much about XCAD. Actually, no, I do. Hold on. XCAD. I think I do know XCAD actually. Watch to earn. They've got a lot of creators. I don't know. It doesn't interest me that much. How did the fork on 𝗏𝗏𝗃 do? Let me check for you. What was the Carver fork called? 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗍𝗘𝗫. 26 mil TVL. Looks like it started well. Volume's dropped though since it's launched. Carver in general is pretty cool because they've got that huge liquidity incentives program. Someone says it's dying. Yeah, it looks like volume's dropping, bro. And I don't know enough about it to tell you whether it's good or bad. Basically, I'm just saying, like, these crazy DeFi flywheels, they tend to kick if the market pumps. What are your long-term altcoin holds? Oh my god, this is a huge question. I'm not even mentally prepared to answer this at 1:30 a.m. It's late here in Australia. No, okay. You guys know how I split up my portfolio. If you don't, the TLDR is I put a different time horizon on different alts. Most altcoins are shorter term, medium term, narrative trades. Very few altcoins I'll hold long term. Obviously, Ethereum being the biggest one. I do have some long term bags in some of the L1s, Fantom being one of them. I have some bets spread out across different ecosystems. Matic, the safer stuff. Arbitrum will become a long term hold at some point for me at the right price. Near Solana. I've got a few different holds just in that niche. I also have some long-term gaming holds. Like PYR, got some long-term sport. UOS, like some of that stuff. I also have some long-term DeFi plays that I'm holding long-term. Some interoperability plays that I'm holding long-term. I'm just not the biggest fan of buying long-term at these prices. I think a lot of things have pumped a lot since they're lows. I prefer to buy in closer to lows. So with most of my altcoin trades, they're shorter term, and I look to just get out into ETH or cash, and then I look for new opportunities. I'm pretty active in this market, so my long-term bags just maybe accumulate a little bit when things are low. Haven't done much buying recently, mostly been trading. I'm more focused short to medium term in terms of like time spend. The long-term bags, they just sit there. I've got some long-term Lido, I've got some long-term 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏, I've got some long-term DeFi stuff. Even to like Beefy, just think it's a cool aggregator. I don't own XRP. Sorry, XRP army. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, I don't own XRP. I don't own UFO long term. I don't own Secret. I do own AZERO. I think I have a bit. I don't have much though. I had some Mina. Forgot whether I still have it. Yeah. Not as focused on long term now. I'm trying to play this next couple months well. Hosts of block bites lost big on Carver after shilling it. Damn. I mean, yeah. Oh my god. I'm going to show you the chart right now. The dilution on this thing is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. This thing is on a path to zero. But I like it from an ecosystem perspective. I wouldn't buy the 𝗟𝗏𝗿 token, but I would look into the eco because of the incentives program running on Carver. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 But I think dog coins, when the market pumps, I think they actually perform kind of well. SHIB had some issues. Look at Doge's chart. SHIB had some issues recently with some controversy with the team. Oofed. Doge, what are you doing to me? Bruh. Doge actually at resistance now. You know what's funny? If Doge flips the 200 MA into support, I'll probably long it. But right now it's woof woof. Heavy resistance. very well reject. See, we don't even have a third touch. This trend line's shit. We need at least one more touch to make it a trend. So. Destroying the horizontals though. So on Doge, you've got lows. It's in a range. It is in a range. If it flips above on the daily, high chance we're going to the top of the range. Big, explosive, massive moves. Until further notice, are going to be reserved for a break. Then you've got price targets up to 16 cents. How much to the alt season? I talked a lot earlier in the show, so you can go back and watch the start of the show if you've just joined, about when I think alts can explode. Basically, we're still in this phase overlap phase. And until ETH BTC starts to tick up and reverse, right now it's dumping, then alts, I mean, Bitcoin's still favored to alts, right? There are exceptions on individual alt pairs that you can long. If you long those alts, they can do well. I'm even DCAing into some alts now because I don't really care, especially the small caps. By the way, Arcadium and those betting ones on Arbitrum look good. But in terms of like an alt season, we're going to need to see this kick in. This ETH outperforming Bitcoin phase, and then that'll really translate quickly into the larger mid caps. An alt season. Dominance is ripping. Yeah, bro. It's been a Bitcoin-led pump. Once again, to the viewers that just came, you might want to go earlier and get my full logic. Don't really feel like explaining it again to that level of detail, so you might want to check that out. So what was I just charting before? Oh yeah, Doge. So yeah, could be a big break for Doge. Let's see if we can flip this daily. Then I'm flipping long. Lads. Satin invalid invite links in the description. Is it invalid? It's not invalid. It's valid. Paula, could you please delete the second we bumped Satin's links to the top of the description, so they're also in the mentioned again. If you could just delete the second link, because we don't need the link in twice. Too late in Australia now. Yeah, it's 1:30. I'm getting tired. I'm playing tennis tomorrow. Got a tennis lesson in the morning soon. So I'll wrap up soon. Because yeah, I want to be fresh for tennis. Smash it on the court. Trying to get better. Good skill to have, I reckon. Tennis or golf, good skills. If you can just nail them, you're basically set until you're 80 years old. Joe and AVAX. Joe, really impressive team. Really impressive team. See if I can get traded Joe up on Binance. Oh, wow. I love it from them. I love it from the team because they're really good, man. And they've really worked hard to innovate and pivot. And I still actually hold some Joe, so I actually better check my bags, man. They're probably pumping. It is facing resistance, though. So, I mean, no AP ape. But frick. A lot of alts are in a range. A lot of alts are in a range. And we had that breakout. And now we had a deviation. Guys, I have to say something. Hold on. Fuck off, NASDAQ. Go away, NASDAQ. Go away, NASDAQ. How do I get rid of you? Delete. Okay. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. On the daily, see how Bitcoin deviated, came back in below, and then pumped? See that? Look at Joe. Exact same candle. Deviated above range high. Now it came back in. CBTC did the same thing. Had that wick down on that next candle. It took 2 more days for the pump. So if Joe follows, that'll line up with CPI. And then in 2 days, you'll see that. It looks the same. And it also broke out of the wedge. It's actually freaking crazy. Broke out of the wedge. That's the exact same thing Bitcoin did. Broke out of the wedge. It is the same chart. It's the exact same chart. It's ridiculous. Even to the day, it's the same. The only difference is it didn't get to range highs before. So it's slightly more overextended. But the time frames line up. Alex was wrong. Who's Alex? Becker? Yeah, he's been fairly wrong. He also made a lot of money in the bull run, so I don't really think he gives a shit. Thanks, Pala, for updating the description. Is your tennis coach like Sharapova? No. Doesn't stop pumping? Yeah, just wait for a breakout, brother. Secret bullish? Is it bullish? Let me check. Nah. Not bullish yet. So you've kind of got confluence of 2 very major areas of resistance. You've got this 200 MA on the daily, and you've got the horizontal. If it flips, yeah, we go long. We go long, baby, with a $1.40 price target. But it ain't bullish. Actually looks quite shit. The only thing I will say, though, is it held these lows quite strongly. So it's probably going to bounce to range highs. It's a very small range, so I wouldn't even call it range highs. It's like FTX. It's still in its FTX range. It hasn't ran yet. This is really weird that it hasn't ran. Definitely can do something like that, but needs to get past the 200 MA and then the daily. 200 MA on the daily, then the horizontal resistance. PYR, already charted it before. APT or Aptos, the greatest token in the world to chart. See, the Arbitrum airdrop and Aptos is very interesting comparing them. Because what if the Arbitrum airdrop launches like this at like $40? You have a chance to dump your airdrop bags. And then it just goes down, but it goes too low. Like Aptos drop back to it down to $1 with all the sell pressure. Then you buy post dump. Then it gets exchange listings and it pumps. You make 6x. You sell. and then you buy it back once it consolidates. That's my plan with Arbitrum. That's literally my plan with Arbitrum. Sell when it first launches, wait for the dump, buy once it dumps, wait for the major exchange listings, Binance, Coinbase, BitGet, Bybit, all those. Then it will get an exchange pump, take profits on that pump, make like a 3-4x, and then buy once it consolidates and hold that shit long term. So what happened with Aptos. It may not play out like that again, but to be honest, it probably will. Always does. Someone said AGIX bounced. I closed my AGIX position, but I'm up. I made good cash on it. AI, by the way, that's another narrative. Look at the AI tokens. So AI tokens, CoinGecko. Look at the AI tokens. If we get an alt season, I think they'll be the strongest performers. Some of the strongest performers, alongside perp dexes, alongside some of these other coins we've talked about. I think AI is still hot in real life. Don't think it's going anywhere in terms of crypto. AGIX, go away. Here we go. Let's go into the hourly chart. AGIX, yeah, as I talked about earlier in the show, approaching its diagonal resistance. Then has more resistance here. So let's see if we get another flag breakout like we did earlier. Like. Perp dexes are too expensive for trading. Yes. If you do want to trade on a dex and you want a cheaper experience, I'd use Apex. They don't have as many pairs, by the way. Bitcoin long cooking, 190%. Zero size, but anyway. Got the logic right. Man, I should have gone in with size. Boy, oh boy, 23k entry. Fuck. XRP short printing. No size. Quantity 0.02 Bitcoin. Fuck. Good trade though. But Apex would be the option for the like a low fee place to trade. So yes, they don't have all the pairs, but they still have like 12 pairs. Actually, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 pairs. And good for Bitcoin, good for ETH, because they're an order book. They're not Oracle based. So you actually have real price discovery happening with pretty good liquidity. Also Bybit affiliated. So if you do want a DEX that's cheaper, because I know some of you don't, maybe you want to pay the fees. If you're trading with smaller size, you don't want to pay the fees on other DEXs. There's a link to Apex in the description. Actually, very good. If you want to trade on DEX, very, very, very good. It's basically Bybit. It looks like Bybit. It acts like Bybit. Smells like Bybit. It's like the decentralized Bybit. It's pretty good. More into the 𝗦𝗵𝗆𝗵𝗱𝗄 take on blockchain AI. Yes, I am as well. I think blockchain and AI, they're not necessarily synonymous. Long term, some projects will win, but some won't. It's like a largely hype and speculation. Here's the thing about the AI run, though. It's news-driven. It's being driven by ChatGPT. It's being driven by all these traditional finance companies investing in AI. That is enough to pump the prices in the short to medium term. All we're doing is trading them. We're not holding them forever. And we don't know when this narrative is going to go away. It may never go away because people need a proxy to invest in AI. So even if things are pseudo AI, they need a proxy to speculate. And in the short to medium term, it doesn't matter, right? Because if crypto is offering them a way to speculate on AI because there's barriers to entries in the stock market, they want some sort of exposure to AI tech, but they don't know how. Crypto AI projects are like just an easy, lazy vehicle to get exposure. And that's why they pump on news. So very hard to short, basically impossible to short. Even if you think they're going to zero, short to medium term, they probably still perform well. That's kind of why I'm saying, look, if we do get an altcoin rotation, I'll probably position myself in AI. Someone says I don't acknowledge super chats. I do, I just don't see them all. Someone said, how about KASPA? KASPA. I have heard about it. It's a DAG. I'll chart it for you. I don't have much of an opinion on the fundamentals. I'm sorry. I don't know if I love it, just based on my mental, history with it. I remember some mental history based on my prior sentiment. I feel like I have something. I don't know. I feel I had some reason why I didn't like this coin, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking it's something else that it isn't. It doesn't have much price data. This is the problem. Is it on CoinEx or? It doesn't have enough price data for me to give you a great bit of TA here. All I know is it's extremely bloody bullish. Yeah, this isn't a trader's coin. Look, if you like the fundamentals, you want a level to buy at long term, then this is your level, obviously. That's going to be quite far away, though. It's going to be a major dip. So, bang. This is bullish. Obviously, a breakout of highs goes into price discovery, right? So if you start breaking above this level, then it's pretty much moon time. I just don't have any clue about the fundamentals to give me an edge here. Let's look on the 4 hourly though, see if there's some sort of trend forming. No. Not really. No clear trend. So, yep. Just wait for that break of 14.7. Thoughts on Define? I remember this token. First on-chain limit order DEX. Wait, what happened? There's issues. There's issues. Hakeem, what's up? Can you check VOXEL? So I don't have much of an opinion on Define. Their website's down, so that's all. It's always a nice little red flag. VOXEL. Are you talking about VOXEL Network or VOXES? Okay, this is a stupid game. Not even interested. Maybe I was a bit dismissive. But I just... don't have an opinion. Ask Hustle. Yeah, I'm not a gamer. I don't know the tokenomics. It's kind of appeals to kids, I guess. Well, I wouldn't play this. AZERO. Love it. Fundamentally. Chart-wise, it's on BitGet. Why the chart got to be like that, though? Why is there no price history, man? Give me price history. I hate trading with no price history. It makes it impossible to chart shit. Did this not get listings till this year on any exchange? Okay, it's been on Mexi for the longest. So let's just go off that. $1.50 is your new level. I remember $1 was super crazy for AZERO. At one point, it was just a stable coin, just hovering around $1. Had a huge expansion to the upside at the start of the year. Huge pullback as well into that $1.25 pocket. Push up, wait for that break of 155. Then you're probably looking at a 25% pump. You're going to need to wait for daily confirmation on that one. I like it. I like. Long term though. What's going on with PYR? Trader SZ posted a setup and it pumped. AVAX is one of these like tokens that's kind of lagging. I prefer to trade strength. If there's a genuine altcoin season, you won't see me aping into AVAX. You'll see me going into degen altcoins. In terms of AVAX's trend though, from a trading perspective, that's what I'm seeing. Positive signs that it broke above the 200 MA on the daily. Very bad price action. Very boring. A lot of these 𝗏1s, terribly boring price action. North Ringwood Tennis Club. Is that your tennis club? It's not my tennis club. I certainly don't live in Ringwood. DXY. 𝗪𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. Rejected off my level. At 105. Rejected. S&P looks shit. It's so weird. This is how broken the economy is. The DXY is dropping alongside the stock market. That is the dollar index. And that is stocks. If you go into a really short time frame, it's more obvious. Look at how they're moving together there. Consolidation, dump, pump, dump. The dollar and stocks should move the opposite. Like this. When stocks pump and the DXY dumps. And then stocks dump and the DXY pumps. And then opposite, opposite. Opposite, opposite. It's inversely correlated. This is bad. Things are breaking. Really weird. Well, it's like there's macro reasons why it's happening. You know, projected interest rate cuts now factoring into the fray. Interest rates start coming down. / projected to come down earlier. That obviously makes the US dollar less valuable. And stock markets also experiencing bank run contagion fears. They don't know how inflation is going to start impacting the stock market, basically resulting in a stock market sell-off alongside a Dixie sell-off. Super weird. 𝗏𝗲, I like 𝗏𝗲. It's part of that narrative I talked about earlier on the show. Don't know if you were here for that, but basically about perp dexes, especially the ones on Arbitrum post airdrop, could perform well. 𝗏𝗲's one of them. It's dropped a lot. I still think GMX, GNS have better like brand equity, brand identity. Where's the money going? It's going to Bitcoin. Koala man. It's going to Bitcoin. Moonbeam? I don't know. I don't think I'm not that interested in the DOT ecosystem for this pump. Maybe long term. For this pump, I'm looking at strength. I see more strength in perp dexes. I see more strength in AI. I see more strength in Arbitrum. I even see more strength in 𝗏𝗿𝗄𝗽 than DOT. So if you talk about this pump, don't think it's Moonbeam. What's up, Joby? Silent gold exit is what's going on. Is gold coming down though? Short answer to that is no. Gold probably hits price discovery soon. Bitcoin's better though. Bitcoin's digital gold. Joby and Crimson are friends. You guys should all be friends in the Crypto Banter Discord. We should all be friends. Fuse, 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 fuse. That is the worst chart I've ever seen. Hello to the Docklands. I think I know Fuse. Super speculative though. Small market cap. I don't have any intel, sorry. VRA long term. I like Veracity. It's not part of my portfolio. I might look to accumulate some. I'm not the biggest fan of the tokenomics. Yeah, I probably wouldn't buy it yet. Personally. Is it too late to get into Grail? You talking about Camelot? As a trade, Arbitrum airdrop hype could probably send this higher, but I just don't really know much about it. Usually things run pre-launch, so find out when it's launching. And if you want to trade, if you guys want to trade spot for any of these tokens, because I know not all of you are leverage traders, you can trade on KyberSwap. You do have Arbitrum as a network, and you'll be able to trade into any of these, like Grail, Audit. They want to go from USDC, Grail, you'll route it through 1inch, because that's the cheapest place to give you the best possible price. Let's say you want to go from, it's no Arbitrum token yet. Optimism is obviously not an Arbitrum. I don't know what, like, what tokens have we got here? Lido to Grail, also going through 1inch. Okay. Magic. Yeah, it looks like Grail liquidity is on 1inch. So yeah, where it'll just route for the liquidity for the best routes. They've also got pools, so you can provide your own liquidity to earn yield. They've got the ETH pairs paying 10%. The pairs are actually very good on KyberSwap, like 27% on stables, DAI/USDT 21%. It's not a bad place to earn yield, to be honest with you. How's the KNC token going? I hold some of these little tokens. Okay, solid. Dollar level, super important. We should all be friends. Miss Grail at 200. Holy shit. Yeah, it was on my radar too. I missed it. You can't catch everything in crypto. Look, you have to be selective with what narratives you trade. You can't catch everything. It's just unrealistic. You have to prioritize some stuff. All right, let's see what the latest news is. Let's see if there's anything that's broken, come out interesting over the last little bit. Layer's got this wrong. He knows it's not hitting 1 mil a day. He's doing this number 2. It's not really advertising for him. It's advertising for the narrative. So I don't know, Leia. I think you're interpreting it wrong. Read my tweet. This is correct. I could perpetuate a lot of different narratives by spending $1 million. Agree. I don't think he's pumping his own bags. I think he's just genuinely trying to perpetuate more of a long-term narrative. Agree. He's not right on the date in 90 days, but eventually the US's inflation will catch up to it. And Bitcoin will pump. This narrative might keep alts lagging behind BTC dominance forever, but it doesn't really matter. Like, if Bitcoin pumps a shit ton, some of that liquidity is going to feed into alts, even if BTC leads for an extended period of time. It's fine. I love alts. It's a different narrative this year. We always say that, though, and then alts always pump. So eventually you're going to get a rotation. Just look for that uptick in ETH dominance. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, where's the DeFi Llama recap? Yeah, I'm not going to read that now. This is what Andre said. This is Scoop of the DeFi Llama situation. He said, easy to be ideological when you aren't paying the bills. Charlie has been out of pocket funding all of DeFi Llama's expenses for years. It isn't cheap. Watching everyone turn on everything he's done is disgusting. Him trying to stop the bleeding isn't greed, it's sustainability. Let's see how long they last without his free money. They'll be raising or adding ads or tokens soon enough. So what I think's happened, this is crazy, is half the team on DeFi Llama didn't want a token. Charlie did, and then they're kind of blaming it on Charlie. Interesting. Becca just tweeted he's bearish. Becca also tweeted he was bearish at 19K. I've seen calls for 1 mil Bitcoin, countless for 100K. Look, I ain't calling shit right here, but we're seeing the most GOAT calls in history. Either we're seeing the most GOAT calls in history or about to see the most memeable bear trap in the last 5 years. At the moment, I'm bearish, but also see potential decoupling safe haven narrative, and I would be ignorant to ignore it. I can't call this. I'm simply preparing a strategy for both instances. Safe haven, trade alts, roll into gold after. Bear trap, do nothing, hold cash, buy S&P low. I'm basically the same. While the music's playing, trade. While the music stops playing, maintain heavy weight in cash. I'm the same as Becca. It's just the way he phrases it that I think freaks people out. He's not different, though. It's just capital preservation. I think he was overly bearish before, though. Did he just tweet this again? Why is he tweeting this again? What's going on here? He deleted and retweeted. Why? You've got the edit button. Weird. Yes, and 𝗟𝗏𝗿𝗆𝗍𝗏, if that's what the Saints thing's about. But there's a bunch of NFL Saints stuff. Don't know why it's trending in Australia then. Probably like a combination of both. I want the Llama token if you airdrop it to users based on DEX aggregator volume. I'm hoping for house money. I don't know how to check volume, but it's got to be 8 figures. Makes it look cleaner with no edited. Yeah, but it's bad for the algorithm when you delete posts. Better if you just post by yourself. Great content. Appreciate it, bro. I'm just scrolling through Twitter, seeing if there's anything new to update you guys on before I head off. Obviously, I will. In a few hours, I'm releasing a banger video for you. So make sure you're ready for that. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Oh, what are the English Premier League scores? Texan, sorry, Chop and Brock. Don't have any thoughts on Texan. I know you deposited, but I frankly don't have any thoughts, man. Just looks already stupid. 5.5 bill fully diluted. An endowment. Yeah, I don't know, man. Postponed. Okay, let's have a look. Arsenal 2-0. They're winning the league, huh? Martinelli sucker. Nice. Man City postponed. Why'd they postpone? Miles prior at schoolboy. I mean, yeah, I obviously went to a private school. No shame in that. Fuck, sorry, I'm highly educated. Sorry. Must suck, huh? Must suck listening to someone that went to private school talk about crypto. Thoughts on the ADA chart? Man, I'm getting tired now. I got tennis soon as well. Not soon, it's in 8 hours, but. Nah, I looked at the wrong token. Damn. All right, ADA. Bybit. Let's go. Bang. ADA looks shit is my first reaction. That's how I'm viewing ADA. It's not pretty though. Once again, in terms of if you're trying to trade alts, I don't know. I'm on-chain degenning, right? If we get this Bitcoin rotation, I'm on-chain degenning into shit on Arbitrum, into freaking dexes, into like all this degen shit. Because if the music plays, it plays, and I want to take advantage. I'm not buying ADA. I'm not buying XRP. I'm not buying AVAX. I'm not buying Solana. It's all just not going to give me the returns I want. I'm going to degen on-chain. I'm going to leverage trade. I'm going to have tight risk management, cut my stops, and that's that. Generally it does. Generally it does. There are exceptions. Not everyone is more highly educated, but typically private schools can attract better teachers because they can afford to pay more because they're funded by students. Typically, not always, but typically. Also, there's usually more extracurricular stuff, which enables you, if you want to excel, if you're academically minded, you can do it. More clubs, more things outside of school, more support, so like more tutors. Typically, that does lead to like greater results. I mean, just look at any city. The top ranked schools for results are private schools. It's not really like a secret. But they're outliers. I see your messages. Someone says get some sleep. Yeah, I probably got to. Miles the professional. Oh, do the guys remember my professional Fantom, the meme that went around about me like last year? The professional Fantom thing. That was hilarious. If you remember that, you're an OG. That was funny. Miles is a professional. Just reminded me. Ah, yeah. Well, that's just semantics. That's just semantics. Someone just deposited $20 and you didn't even put a token thing in. Thanks for the donation, bro. Okay, I'll check render. Last one I'm checking. This is bullish. Bullish render. See that break? So probably going to be one of these weird ones where it's kind of in no man's land TA wise. You're probably going to need to wait for this pullback. Probably going to have to wait for a pullback on render. Is that still above the daily MA though? Yeah, it is. Definitely wait for a pullback. On render. Buy a bit of OKX. Depends what you want. OKX is cool because you can DCA into like spot portfolios. It's got a really cool like portfolio function. Also, trading bot integration on OKX is very good. So if you're into that, OKX. Also, rewards are pretty good if you have less money. Bybit, if you're a whale, then you get a way bigger bonus. So that's a plus, 30k. Bybit has basically the same amount of pairs. Bybit's phone app's better. OKX, I'd say, has a very similar desktop. Trading experience-wise, they're both similar, I would say. You can't go wrong. So link in the description to either. Also, BitGet. Can't go wrong with BitGet. If you want a DEX, Apex for leverage. If you want spot DEX, KyberSwap. All the links are in the description. If you want to support the channel and trade, you can do so in the description. DeFi over Bybit or OKX. Yeah, I mean, I've been trading a bit on Apex. It's cool. Fuck, Bitcoin pump. Guys, you didn't tell me. Bitcoin's pumping. No one told me. If we break above 27.7, this may be the push up to 29. Some people saw the pump. Stacy saw the pump. Stacy saw the pump. The pamp. Respect the pamp. Still, I think we probably get like a little cup and handle sitch where we have a bounce and then clear this zone. But still a chance to get rejected here. Ah, you did? Okay, you told me. Sorry. No news, bro. It's a narrative. It is the Bitcoin inflation hedge, digital gold, ultimate safe haven, flight to safety risk narrative. ETH BTC looks okay. Here. Yeah, CoinGecko uses small oracles. That's why there's a discrepancy. Uses small oracles. Fake out volume's low. Let's check volume. Yeah, guys, this is weekend volume. Wait till Asian Open in 10 hours. 10 hours, 10 hours, 10 hours. That's where we'll get the big move. Look at this volume diminishing. Wait for a bit of volume. Look at that volume that came in on this candle. We want something like that. Yeah, wait for some volume. What are the RSI showing as well? It's not even how I add an indicator. Overextended on the hourly, on the daily, overextended on the weekly, overextended on the 4 hourly. Oh, it looks okay. I actually, you know what's funny? I actually think this 4 hourly stock RSI is like the best one for trading. That's good. If that was overextended as well, I'd get a bit worried. Then again, this is proof that stock RSI kind of means nothing because it can go like for like days in the higher bound. If Powell is dovish, we blow. Yeah, that's one major takeaway. Wait to see what happens with FOMC. Let's see the revised probabilities. That's on Tuesday, 38 to 62. So 62% we get a hike of 25 BPS, basis points. 38% chance we don't get a hike. If we don't get a hike, mega bullish. If we do get a hike, not necessarily bearish unless he's overly hawkish. If it's dovish with a hike, it's fine. It's more the language that he uses. Someone says dumping again. Okay, we got to get off the 5-minute charts, guys. Does this look like a dump to you? Hold on, let's go on to the minute chart. Let's have some. Oh my god, look at this dump. Oh my god. Look at that candle. No, I'm not on premium. They got rid of TradingView sponsored me, and I had their premium indicators, and now they rugged me. I don't know if it was an accident or if it expired, but I'm rugged. Now they're gonna make me pay again. It's not fair. Lad. If rates are raised again, more banks to collapse. The thing about rising interest rates and their effect on the banking system is it's a very lagged effect. So in actuality, it takes months to see the impacts of rate hikes. So we're actually probably still going to see the ongoing effects for quite some time. That's why the BTFP program came in, Bank Term Funding Program, to help provide the banks with liquidity because they probably realized they'd overdone it. So that's probably going to limit their ability to keep hiking rates. Magic the best game in Arbitrum, yes. Raising any amount seems like Russian roulette. Yeah, and they may think that as well, and they may go with no hike. No hike. Mega bull if no hike. Am I lagging? I don't think so. All right. I'm going to head off. Thank you guys for chilling with me for a few hours. It's late. I'm playing tennis soon, so I gotta get some sleep. And yeah, if you do want to support me, support the channel, there is all the exchange links we talked about today, as well as NordVPN in the description if you want to protect yourself. Some pretty nice sign-up bonuses as well. So link in the description if you want to trade or access any of the stuff we discussed. And I will see you in literally 4 hours because I've already prepared a video that's going live. So you'll see that. It's freaking good. Stay tuned. Notifications on. And I'll see you in the next one. And yeah, let's hit 1K likes. What are we on now? What are we actually on now? Oh my goodness. All right, when I refresh in 3 seconds, this is on 1K. All right. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, there we go. Well done, everyone. All right, much love. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night. 10 hours till Asian Open. Let's see if we moon. Well, to be honest, market's going to be a bit volatile ahead of FOMC. So post FOMC though, big movement, big movement. All right, see you guys later. Peace out.